Well, good morning to you all, and welcome to our webinar entitled Business, Startup, and Expansion. My name is Marjorie Wharton, and I am your host for this session this morning. As some of you may already know, my business is entitled Breakthrough Performance Coaching. You wouldn't think it's mine, right? I'm getting the name wrong, but it's Breakthrough Performance Coaching. And one of the things that we are established to do is really bring to the community the knowledge of experts, the experience, the capabilities and skills that can be of benefit to those of us in the community who want to expand our abilities, our skills, and our potential to be successful and to continue growing in that way. And so this event, like so many others of the events that I have been producing or have been sharing with the community of late, is really intended to bring an expert on board who collaborates with my organization so that we can offer an event like this. And so the focus today, as you can tell from the title, is really on looking at what is required in order to successfully establish, if you're in the startup phase, establish your business, or what are some of the steps that you can take to grow if you're already established, you're going along, and you perhaps want to not only grow, but maybe even consolidate various initiatives that you have going and running concurrently. And so joining me today, collaborating on this initiative, is the one and only Mr. Richard Blades, known far and wide as Richie B. He's very proud of saying that. Of course, I knew him before he was at celebrity status where he could shorten his name. So I still take the privilege of referring to him sometimes as Richard. Hi, Richie B.
Hello and good morning, Marjorie. Good morning, everyone.
All right, such a pleasure to have you here. So Richard is an entrepreneur, and he has been an entrepreneur for, I swear, as many years as I've known him. And I never admit anymore to how long I've known anybody because it ages me. But it has been years, and Richard has been sharing information, sharing wisdom, sharing ideas about what it takes to establish and grow business. He's a business development specialist. He's done so as an employee in hospitality, as a teacher and trainer, working with salespeople, working with various industries across the region and across the world. He's very proud of saying that even though he resides in Barbados, he really caters to global communities. And so our facilitator today, Mr. Richard N.A. Blades, known far and wide as Richie B, I am going to hand over to you, sir. The floor is yours. Now, please, participants, as we go through this session, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. Richard will be addressing the questions as we go along, but still put them in the chat so that you don't lose track of what you want to be able to ask us or what tidbits you want to share. So Richard, over to you.
Thank you so much, Marjorie. Welcome again, everyone. Today, I promise you 3 E's: to be exciting, entertaining, and educational. What we're going to be doing is taking you through what it takes to be in business, even if you're from a startup stage, and if you are already existing, how to expand it. We are going to have lots of information. What I'm going to do is turn my video off so that you can get better sound. There we go. And then I am going to begin to share my screen with you so that we can go through the material that is going to be there. Now, it's a lot of material. It's way more than what we can accomplish within the time frame. But however, not to worry, we have taken care of everything so that you can, you don't have to worry about taking notes or anything of the sort, because we have everything ready for you online on your devices, and you'll be seeing everything momentarily. Here, just a bit of housekeeping. You have the presentation link where this presentation is stored right at the top there. So you can copy that down so you can log on onto your devices, put that link in, and you can get it. Then we'll be working with slides and something I developed called a toolkit, which is a closed website that I've developed and put a lot of information on just for you. Now, I have taken note of who is going to be attending, so to speak, in terms of the categories of employment and also where you're from, so that I can tailor the examples that I'm going to use to suit, so that you get maximum benefit. As you have questions coming on in, what will happen is that Marjorie will indicate to me that there are questions there where I can then look at addressing your questions within the program rather than waiting until the end. All right. Now, within the material, there are hyperlinks, especially in the toolkit. And there's referencing material as well. So you're going to have videos, you're going to have reading material. A lot of you're going to basically have homework if you can relate to that if you're not finished school too long ago, like me. Our contact details are at the end of today's slide deck, and possibly also in the toolkit for your ease of reference, so that you'll know how to get in contact with us at the end. We will use examples applicable to you, applicable to your fields, so that when you're here today, you leave, you can have information that you could pretty much apply within 24 to 48 hours and start to see and experience results. Now, sitting in front of a computer, especially in this day and age from last year, you're probably saying, oh boy, another webinar. Well, this one is no different. However, what is special about this one is that you may get your snacks during the session and keep in touch, in time, and in tune so that you don't miss any of the information that we're going to be sharing today. You can keep your mic off when not speaking, and your video can be muted so you can get better bandwidth. And even though the session is going to be recorded so that you can get it at the end, you want to make sure that all your video and audio quality is quite good. Now, in terms of the questions, what I told you about that already. So without any further ado, let's go into what we're going to be doing today. For today, we're going to be looking at what are the requirements for beginning a business. You're going to be looking at the expansion, and you really got to ask yourself, are we ready for it? We're going to be looking at the strategies and operations required for running a business. And then right here, there's a hyperlink for the toolkit. So once you download and you access the link for the slides, you automatically have this toolkit link embedded. So all you need to do is click on it. All right. Great. Now, in terms of starting a business, what are some of the requirements? Well, let me step back here a little bit, come out from this presentation and go to the toolkit. This is your toolkit. All right. So here, what I'm going to do is everything that's in the presentation, I'm going to be coming over here to the toolkit, breaking everything down for you so that you don't miss a beat. So what are the requirements for starting a business? Well, first and foremost, you have to determine the type of business that you would want to have. What is the strategy behind you setting up your business the way how it is, how you're going to set it up? A lot of people tend to go for the sole proprietorship because here in Barbados, it's just $104. You get a business name, you can open a bank account, and you can start doing business. However, we're going to discuss in just a little bit why that might not be necessarily the best way of setting up your operation. You have a partnership, and you have two types of partnership. The general partnership, and you also have what is called the limited partnership. And again, we're going to go into those a little bit deeper. You have the limited liability entity, and then you also have a corporation. I am seeing. Can you put the link in the chat? Yes, I can.
I did that already. I did it already, Richard.
You did it already? Okay,
yes,
great. Thanks so much, Marjorie. You see now why Marjorie's the best? All right. Now, in terms of a sole proprietorship, that's when it's just going to be you getting into business. It gives you an opportunity to try the business and see if there's any commercial viability in it, if it's something that you even like. But the thing about it is that it exposes you to liability. What do I mean by liability? A lot of people that would be your customers, they tend to have a liking for the name of, and it's a female name, and it's called Sue. So what would happen if you had to get sued by someone is that you can lose your shirt, because this is the most vulnerable form of business type that you can have. All right. It is usually common here within Barbados and many other parts of the world. A lot of people just use it, and with the intention of starting the business and then going on to another stage, but they don't get to do it. The other thing is, when you have a sole proprietorship, when the owner of that sole proprietorship dies, the business dies with them. There's no transferability to that business. You can also say the same thing with a partnership to a certain extent. It is not as limited, but if you have a general partnership, it's the most vulnerable way of doing business as well, because one partner going signing off on anything can make the entire body of people in that partnership liable for the promises that were established, or the agreements that were established by that partner. So one of the better ways is to establish what is called a limited partnership, where you identify the unlimited partner would be who is actively involved in the business, and then the other limited partners would have a nominal level at which they would have made their investment, but they will be protected from a liability standpoint up to the level of their investment. You have a limited liability entity where you actually offer shares, and then finally we come all the way right through to a corporation. And what I am going to do is just click here to corporate affairs, where in Barbados we would go, we call it CAIPO, which is short, which means Corporate Affairs and Intellectual Property Office. All right. They're linked with many entities, and pretty much now anything and everything in business, you have to go through here in order to ensure that you're protected, registered, and you have to, in some cases, that depending on the type of business that you do have, or the type of entity, I should say, not just business, because NGOs also have to register here, as well as charities. You would then be able to see all the different entities that you interact with. You would have your protection. You'll know what your license fees are when the year comes. All of those sorts of things will be made available to you. Now, they have a website, which that was the website I just showed you, but I am going to come back now and show you some additional stuff in terms of when you're registering your business. You remember just now I would have spoken about the $104 for the registration process if you're going to be doing a sole proprietorship. Now here, this is going to give you all of the fees. So this is the approximate fees. They can change quite easily. I am going to go here and show you all of them. So here you will see that there's all the fees and everything like that. All the types of businesses are done under the various acts governing the types of operations that you have. And they have everything covered, from starting up the business all the way right through to when you're going to close the business down. And I keep saying business, but it's really entity that I should be saying. All right. So you have the Companies Act, right? And you can see that there are various elements applicable to the Companies Act. Then as we move on down, I'm just going to do this quickly because you can always go back and do this on your own, as we have, I'm doing this in the interest of time. So you have the registration of the business names, which is $100 to register your business name, but the $4 is the VAT. So that's why you get $104. As you're coming down, you get the bill of sale. So if you're going to be selling items like property, cars, all that sort of thing, you would have to go through here and, to get different documentation in order to ensure that, the transference of ownership is done correctly. You have the Pharmacy Act. Yes, you cannot just set up a pharmacy just like that. You have to go through and register it properly and appropriately. It must be inspected first in order to ensure that you can set up the pharmacy in a proper manner, especially since you're dealing with prescription drugs. The limited partnership, I spoke about that not too long ago. With the limited partnership, what is happening is that you get some liability protection, just like if you had a company, but rather than paying thousands of dollars, you pay $2.40 and you lodge the partnership act, which shows who are the unlimited partners. You lodge the partnership agreement, sorry, which shows the unlimited partners, the limited partners, what their contributions are, and up to what level. And that is something that is done by you with your attorney, and then it is lodged, and you pay the $2.40. It's been discounted because at the time when I did it some years ago, it was $2.60. Coming on down, you have a registration of newspaper. You have the trade unions. Yes, they also have to be registered as well. All right. Now, when you're deciding on your business, they have a number of systems that you should consider. A business is like a human body where we comprise of the circulatory system, the respiratory system, the lymphatic system, etc. A business also has a variety of systems. So,
Richard,
yes?
before
Hello?
you go too much onto the systems, because I realize you're going on to another topic, we have a question in the chat. Someone is asking, if one has multiple business ideas and businesses to launch, what is your perspective on a holding company? In your experience, is it better to do it on startup or after the various businesses have been registered?
It all comes down to your strategy and and the competence of your team that you have to deal with all these things. If you're going to be trying to do it on your own, it can get a little bit hairy in terms of all the fees and everything like that you have to be pulling out, as I just showed you for the fee structure. Business is a team sport, as we're going to discuss in a little bit. So you're going to need to have teams in order to ensure that you're not overwhelmed. I know I've seen people come to me and they have books of businesses. And the thing about it is that you've got to treat it like an elephant, where you eat it one bite at a time. If you try to force it all, you're going to overwhelm yourself and crumble. Now, that being said, a holding company, you don't want to be too premature in setting up a holding company unless you have the funds to do so. Because you're always going to have, for every company that you do have, you're going to have annual filings. You're going to have, when you get to a certain level of revenue, you're going to have audited income statements or audit reviews, depending on what is happening there. You're going to also have to ensure that you have compliance with what is called the Employee Rights Act, in case you're going to be recruiting employees. And this includes even somebody who's coming on the outside of your premises just to do a daily clean. You have to ensure that you can prove without a shadow of doubt that they are just coming to do your work just for you, but they also have other clients, so they're not an employee of yours, they're a service provider. And you need to have the different documentation in place to prove that, right? Otherwise, it can be, and it's just what it says, the Employee Rights is that the employees have all the rights. The employers don't necessarily have that. So in terms of the holding company, again, it needs to be structured, because what is the holding company going to be holding? Is it just an umbrella thing? And then your businesses that are going to come underneath it, are they interrelated? Are they separate and diverse? Do they complement each other? What is going to be your strategy? If you can tell me a little bit more about that, maybe I can zero in a bit more to provide even more in-depth help. You can turn.
So then I would suggest maybe that individual, if they require additional clarification, maybe can reach out to you directly. And as we say, Richard, the contact information will be in the presentation, so they can just maybe drop you an email or reach out to you on LinkedIn. Then
Okay.
we have another question. What type of structure would you recommend for a consultant?
Okay, is the consultant a standalone consultant, or is the consultant a part of a consulting body?
It might be an individual.
Okay,
Yes, standalone. The response is yes,
standalone.
standalone.
Okay. Now, depending on the industry that you are in, you can either uh, be an incorporated entity, because remember, as a consultant, you are advising people. Um, you're advising people as a consulting entity uh, about things that are going to impact the livelihoods of the clients, and therefore you're taking on that risk, right?
Yeah.
Uh, if you're going to
Industry is marketing.
be industry is
Marketing.
yeah, but when you're talking about marketing, now you're encouraging people to spend a whole lot of money. You know, in marketing, there's a saying, and especially from my days back in marketing, my bosses always used to say at the time, you know, marketing today you're a king, tomorrow you could be a dog. Because if you do something that works out well and they make a lot of money in that day, great. But then if you don't, then you could very well end up being in a situation where the first thing that can happen is that you're seen as an expense rather than being an asset, right? So
Mhm.
if you are in marketing, what has to happen is that you've got to be on your A game. You've got to know your stuff. You've got to know your reputation. And you also have to have at least 10 clients. We're going to cover that in a little bit. As to why I say 10. In terms of the structure, are you working locally? Are you working internationally? You can start up first as a sole proprietorship since it's just you. But then if you are in a market that or operating in an arena that has a lot of litigation, it will be best to protect yourself and your personal assets, unless you want to put your personal assets underneath an entity that manages your personal assets so that it's not protected. You're not exposed, sorry. All right, does that help you? Or do you want me to go in a little bit further?
The response is thank you.
Okay.
All right.
That helps? Okay, great, perfect. Where was I? Oh, I was talking about, I spoke about registering the business already, right?
Yes, you were going on to systems.
I was going on to systems. Thank you so much. You know, it's having a senior moment there. So there are at least 7 things that you should know about systems when you're going into business. Let me see if I can get those up here for you. Let's close this off and just, here we go. All right. So when you're in business, you got to have a document and filing system. All right. Why? Because you are going to be handling a lot of information, and you've got to be organized in the way how you process that information, how you receive it, process it, the throughput of it. And then when your business delivers, you got to know what has been delivered and what is still in process and everything like that, so that you know where you are at all times. It's like your speedometer. So I always say that a business must have good administrative practices when you're talking about your documents and your filing. Note taking, getting orders correct, getting information accurate, ensuring that you're understanding what the client wants is key and critical. So your ability to take notes so that you can check back those notes, see that you're on target, check what you've written back with the person who is giving the information before you move from their presence is always ideal. Or if you can't get it done that way, you send them back correspondence saying, this is what I understood from our discussion. All right. When you do that, what is happening is that you're ensuring that you are as close as close as possible to batting 1,000. In that, when you deliver, you're pretty much on target, on time, and with everything that is required to be delivered. Now, and on budget is the other thing, because you want to ensure that you fall within the budget so you can plan out your strategy when you're dealing with these things on behalf of the client. Now, when you come down to the appointments, a lot of people nowadays have smartphones. Pretty much everyone has a smartphone. They have laptops. They have all these sorts of things. They load them up with appointments sometimes. They don't use them properly. They miss appointments. Sometimes they book appointments too close. Thankfully for COVID, you've had a situation where you don't have the commute times included, but what has happened is that you become overwhelmed with a whole plethora of meetings coming in where the times are clashing in many instances. So scheduling can be a task in and of itself, and particularly if you're working on your own. So you've got to be very good with knowing how to manage your time, and in order to ensure that you're not overwhelmed. Can you schedule, if you have to be going out to meet clients like the way how we did before COVID, one of the things I used to do is to zone the area where I'm going to have my appointments. So I would do appointments in a particular zone, which would help me get from one appointment to the other efficiently, rather than going all the way up to the north of the island, coming back down to the south, or then having to go across to the eastern side of the island. Right? You zone the area so that you're working in one particular area on a daily basis, and then you come around, and you plan your week out like that. So appointments and scheduling are key. When is your cutoff time at the end of the day? Are you dealing with people in different time zones? That's something that I have to deal with on a daily basis, because I deal with people in different time zones. I live locally and work globally, as you would have heard Marjorie say to you at the beginning. Then you have what is called projects. Some of you might work by projects, some of you work by task. And then you've got to learn how to prioritize everything. There's a saying in the dental field where they look at rock, pebble, sand. So that and the analogy is, if you take your day, how are you prioritizing? So the day is a glass. If you fill your glass with a whole lot of sand, you really don't have a whole lot of time to do everything else, because the sand would be like your bread and butter work that just comes on in. It doesn't cost, it's not terribly expensive, but you're loading up your day with appointments. And then at the end of the day, you're left wondering if you paid to work, as opposed to being paid to work. Then the rocks would be like the bigger projects that are lucrative. You want a couple of those in, but then they're still going to leave some gaps, so that if you only have those types of that type of activity coming in exclusively, you're going to have what can be deemed as feast or famine, right? And your project might finish, and then you have a lull in between the time that the next project starts, and you have no income coming in. The pebbles are the things that can come in between, but you don't want to get pigeonholed, or what the actors will call typecast, into a particular area that you're only known in a limited capacity. So you have to be so very careful about the types of projects that come on in. And your projects have to make sense. In that, once you make sense, you will make dollars. And why that is key is because at the end of the day, regardless of what business that you're in, it has to be sustainable. You have to make money. You have to make profit. Too many entrepreneurs, I find, are afraid to talk about profit. And the first thing they want to do when they get into a meeting to negotiate with somebody is offer a discount and leave money on the table. And the person that they might be meeting with might not have even asked for a discount. And in the instance that they do, You've still got to be very careful because some people would ask for discounts. You give them the discount and then they want to pay you late, which then pushes up your cost of the project because you're trying to do collections. That could be, if you're not careful, the collection might even the collection cost could actually come up to what you're trying to collect in terms of the revenue that was supposed to be coming in. So you've got to be so very careful when you're looking at your systems pertaining to the types of projects that you're taking on. Like, for example, I don't do retainers anymore at all because I once had an experience where I had a company that was on retainer, and the leadership there thought that they had to call every single day because they were on retainer, even if they had nothing to ask. And it became a nuisance. So I said, you know what? Yes, I fire clients. So I terminated the relationship with them. And, and then I just moved on to another place where, I dealt with more clients. And that's why I always say it is always good when you're going to be working out here like this in entrepreneurship capacity, particularly if you're going to be a consultant or advisory capacity, you must have 10 paying clients minimum, and they must be paying at decent rates so that you can sustain yourself and your business, and you can still save some money to do things. All right. I find that too many people, like just yesterday, I heard about somebody who was doing business plans. That person was on campus around the same time I was, and they are well qualified, they're bright and everything like that, but I find that they're afraid to talk money. And, they were charging through the floor for business plans. And I'm like, why? What is it that you're doing that you're all the way down there in terms of your pricing? And, they were afraid to add value on, and they saw themselves as a commodity. So therefore, their clients would also view them as being a commodity as well. Does that make sense? So how you view yourself is going to come all the way right through in everything that you do, be it your email, your communication, your messages, your dress, your deportment, all of those sorts of things are going to come out. So how is your team communicating to the people in terms of the spoken word, the written word, and how they see you? Sometimes the best ad is for your business is when people see you, when people interact with you. Are you coming across as being professional? Are you coming across as being knowledgeable? Do you have a presence about your business that lets people know that you know what you're doing? Then, in terms of finances, are you making money? Are you helping others to make money? When people do business with you, do they save money or earn more money than they would have ordinarily through the use of your services? Are they acquiring assets that help them in the growth of their business? So if you're a trainer and you're going out there and you're doing training, for example, with sales and marketing teams, are those teams then going out and have the capacity then to increase the earning ability of the entity that you just trained? Are they helping the entity that you just trained retain more of the business so that you are reloading business of clients that they're reloading business of clients that they would have served before? All of these are things that you do to help add value to your clients' operations, and also to your, and by extension, your operations would benefit from it as well. If I can just backtrack, if I can just go forward, let's look at, I was going to backtrack, but I can take it up in this next point. In terms of your vision, plan, goals, and balance, what's happening there? Do you have a vision for your business? Too often, we as business people spend too much time working in our businesses and not working on our businesses. And there's a difference. Working in your business is that when you're caught up in the activity of busyness, you're so busy trying to serve other people that you don't try to put things in place so that you can work more effectively and efficiently in order to be able to serve your clients well and also be able to shorten the time within which you can do it. Why do you think that more people would pay a higher cost to get a letter from one point to another using a courier service as opposed to be using the regular post office systems? You've got to look at your personal productivity. When you get home at the end of the day, what have you accomplished? Now, home for me is easy, especially in these days of COVID. I just pick up 2 Dog Avenue and I go to work. And people say 2 Dog Avenue, where is that? Well, it's the side of my house because I go downstairs. And then when I'm done, I pick up 2 Dog Avenue to come back home. But at the end of the day, I've got to know, was it productive? Did it align or surpass what I had planned for the day? Did I even have a plan for the day? Did I have a plan for the week? What is my traveling rate for the month in terms of how my plans are matching up against my actuals? And these are questions that you have to sit down, and have with your management team, even if it means that your management team is just you're having your meeting in front of the mirror. How are you valuing yourself, your time, your efforts, and your resources? Any questions? Okay. Now, this young lady right here that I'm going to share with you in a minute, her business is online. I might not be able to share the entire video with you because in my estimation, it's a little bit on the long side, but that's why I have it here in the toolkit so you can go through it. And I'm encouraging you that, to look for her by following her link, subscribe to her channel, and she's got a plethora of information. She made 6 figures with a computer that has a camera, and she's doing her vlogging on business topics. If she can do it from wherever part in the world she is, why can't you? Why can't you take a similar planned and organized approach with whatever business that you are in? It doesn't have to be that you're vlogging, but why can you not set a target to do 6 figures? Have you ever done 6 figures for your business? Let me ask you to type in the chat. Have you ever done 6 figures for your business? Just tell me yes or no. Really quick. You don't have to take too long. Have you done 6 figures in your business? Yes, no, no. Anybody else? Someone said this year, great. Most people are saying no from what I'm seeing here so far. Great. Now, my next question is, would you like to? Would you like to make 6 figures? Yes. Okay, great. That's only one person, of course. Yes, definitely. Now, are you saying 6 figures because of the fact that I said 6 figures that you're saying yes? Or are you limit? Aha, somebody got the idea. They want to make 7. And it's doable. You don't have to live in a metropolitan country in order to do that kind of revenue, right? You can be wherever you are in the world. And let's face it, a lot of people who are within those metropolitan countries, they come here and reside here within the Caribbean and even within Barbados, and they make that kind of money. And their businesses are true businesses where it doesn't matter whether or not they turn up for work at the office, their businesses are still making money. Which brings me to one of the other things that I need to ask. Do you have a bona fide business or do you own a job? owning a job is that your business needs you every single day in order to earn revenue. Having a business means that it's not required for your presence to be there in order for you to own business, for you to earn revenue. So do you have a business or do you own a job? Okay, yes, you still own a job. Okay, both. What I'm now starting. Okay, I'm glad that this information is coming in because now this helps me to tailor examples to suit. For many of you who are now starting a job, who are now starting your business, sorry, would you be able to share with me what area your business is operating within and what you find is your most difficult area of coping within your business today? Is it access to financing? Is it access to other resources? Is it recruitment? Hold a job, hoping to start a business soon. Great. Yeah. And you have to, yeah, you don't wait till you're thirsty to dig a second well. So that's very, very good. Come people, type, don't be shy. Okay, you don't have a difficulty just yet. Okay, so if you don't have a difficulty, what is stopping you from achieving or realizing your goals? Was it a case that you did not set your goals? They're not clearly defined? Do you need more time? What is it? Tell me. Administration trying to do everything, that can hold you back. Find somebody to outsource to. A lot of people need to learn how to outsource. I am now leaving. Good. Okay, well, within banking, you would have gotten a lot of experience within how, document management and all the other things in the systems that we've spoken about before. But how many of you recognize that when you're coming from a job to go into a business, it's a steep learning curve? Because when you're in your job, you have other people around you to do various things. But then when you're coming out to do your business, then you recognize that until you start outsourcing, until you learn where you need to go, you have to be the chief cook and bottle washer doing every single thing. And sometimes you don't know what you are supposed to do, so it can be overwhelming. You don't know if you're doing it well. You don't know that you did not know that you might have even needed to do it. And unless you came into a forum like this, you might not have known that other people are experiencing the same very difficulties that you are. Let me share something with you. You heard I'm a business development specialist, right? But when I came from out of the hotel sector, and I worked in every single area of the hotel, from gardens all the way right through to duty manager in charge of the properties and all that sort of stuff. I still found it had a steep learning curve. But what I did is quickly recognize that I needed a team. So my thing about it is that I would rather make 1% of a million than 100% of 1,000. Right? 1% of a million is 100,000. But 100% of 1,000 is still 1,000. So how many of you recognize the importance of, now that I've said that it's probably better to work in teams? How many of you recognize that the importance of networking? We've got things like LinkedIn and all that sort of thing there. And all we do is connect with people, but we don't ever start a conversation with them, find out what they can do and where the synergies exist that they can help our business and we can help theirs. Sometimes we want to keep our businesses top secret. Yes, Keith Ann, I'm going to come to that just now. You've been peeking. The regulatory and statutory areas, yes, that can be difficult. But you know what? You can find somebody who will deal with those areas for you, though. All you need is a good bookkeeper. Not, you don't need an accountant. A bookkeeper will do all that there for you, a good one, right? And sometimes we feel that we need an accountant because the title sounds big and, oh, I have this stuff, I'll take it over to my accountant. But all you need is a bookkeeper to keep the records and everything like that. And then if you realize that at the end of the year you hit like over 2 million, well, then yeah, you need an accountant. If you need certain documentation, sometimes that you're doing a business plan and you need an audit review, yes, you need an accountant. But more often than not, you just need a good bookkeeper. All right? You need a good attorney. Nice. Very, very good. You guys are starting to do the right things. Some of you are starting to focusing upon what you want. And as you get older, you're going to find that you have to be able to work smarter as opposed to working harder. No, you're recognizing that you need a bookkeeper, you need somebody in HR, you need somebody in admin, you need somebody in marketing. Yeah? You need somebody in operations, depending on what type of business that you're in. How many of you have a mentor? Somebody who's gone the path before, who would help you avoid some of the mistakes and pitfalls that are waiting for you. How many of you have a mentor? How come, Keith Ann? Well, you don't have a mentor? Not you? Yeah. Wow. Many, again, some people have mentors and some people do not. Okay, great. This is awesome. Do you find it easier to work with a mentor or without? For those of you who already have the mentor, do you find it was easier to do what you need to do without the mentor or with the mentor? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, you go to University of YouTube? Great. All right. Now that you're looking at that, I'm gonna step back right here really quickly and share this with you. Yes, some people are secretive, but you know what? There's really no information that is new. Uh, and like as Leon, as Keithan said, you go to University of YouTube, you can pretty much find out just about anything. There's always someone up there who's done it before. I'm going to share this video with you really quickly, and then I'm going to come on back in.
If you're serious about building a real online coaching, consulting, and/or course business, there are certain systems and things that you need to have in place in your business so that you have a real business, right? One that has predictable and consistent traffic, sales, revenue, recurring revenue. And it's not something where you have to hustle every day to get your next sale or post on social media to get your next client, right? And so that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what I like to call the 3 layers of certainty that you need to build into your business to make sure that you have a real business from day one that's going to stand the test of time, that's going to continue consistently making sales into the foreseeable future, and that doesn't rely on you having to show up and hustle 24 hours a day to make sales. So let's talk about what those 3 layers are. The first layer is the income layer. So this is probably a no-brainer, because without revenue in your business, you do not have a business. And so this first layer that you want to be building in consists of a few things. First, it's making sure that you've got the basics covered, that you have a market, right? That you know the audience, the ideal client avatar, common terms, whatever you want to call it, so that you have an audience that wants what you have to sell. It's also making sure that you've got a product, whether that's a coaching offer, a consulting offer, an online program, a course, whatever that looks like, wherever you're starting out. Although, if you've followed me and my content for any amount of time, you know I pretty much, for this type of business, always recommend starting out with an online coaching offer. I mean, the coaching offer itself does not have to be online. You can do it through calls and such, but a coaching offer. And making sure that it's something that people want. And then doing the activities that you need to do to actually get sales. That's what it comes down to. And that's really all you need to be focused on to really create that income layer, where you know you have a product, it has a market fit that generates income. Now, there's a lot that goes into doing that. I have a ton of videos on my channel that walk you in depth through all of those different areas. There's not one specific one, because it's a lot of things. So if you are interested, you're gonna have to check out my YouTube channel and look at the wealth of information that I have there. And so that's the income layer. And in that first layer, all you're focused on is starting to generate income. And I want you to notice, at this point, you're not worried about trying to build any other layers. You're not trying to worry about building a funnel or long-term traffic or a beautiful system. That's going to come down the road, and we're going to talk about that in just a bit. Where you want to start out is making sure that, hey, I've got something that I can make sales of to a market that wants that, and I have made some sales so that I've got proof of concept. In the beginning of your business, that's the only thing that you are focused on, so that anything that you need to do, your list of to-dos, what you first ask yourself is, hey, is this something that's going to help me generate that income certainty? The certainty that I know I've got something that can generate revenue in my business. Without that, nothing else matters. If something that you're wanting to do doesn't directly contribute to that, right? For example, spending a few hours making your website a little prettier, or spending a few hours updating your email sequence. If you are new to email marketing and aren't great at copywriting and are just new to your business, that's not a great use of your time. What is a good use of your time is finding potential clients who would be interested in what you have to offer, and then sharing your offer with them and seeing where that leads you. Again, I have way more details in my other videos, so if you're serious about building your business, make sure you check those out. So that's the first layer, and I want you to notice that in each layer, we are only focused on a few things at a time, and this is really key, because the truth is there is a lot to building an online business, right? Or really any sort.
Okay, we seem to have lost Richard. For a minute there, I thought it was just my video that was stuck. We'll just give him a few minutes to log back in, because we know how technology can go. There you are, sir. Hi, Richie. Hi, Richard. Okay, so I'm still not hearing you. So maybe you need, if you can hear me, Richard, maybe you need to log out and log back in again and see if that will work, because we're not sure. I'm not sure what's happening right now. All right, but that was a good video and that was good information. And I just wanted to say this for those of you who are saying you don't have a mentor, but you have people that you go to on YouTube. I just want you to think of it this way, that really you do have a mentor, because whoever you are accessing on YouTube is in fact still your mentor, because you're going to them consistently for guidance and advice. And so if you at least think of it that way, then you know, it's not so much that you're out there on your own with no guidance. It's just that your mentor is in a more distant and indirect format. And we often advise as well that sometimes we may have books that we buy or people that we look at their story, we look at their biography and what they did in order to grow their business. And that can also be considered mentorship, because we're really learning from someone else who's followed a similar path. All righty, so we're still waiting on Richard. Well, while we are, if you have any questions, anything that was coming up for you, you can go ahead and just type it in chat. And when he comes back in, I'll share it with him. Glad to hear that there are so many of you on the line who, like me, are perhaps transitioning out of corporate employment and moving more now into this entrepreneurship, which really, I completely agree with everyone who says that it's a completely different kettle of fish. And part of the reason that I wanted to have an initiative like this was really because I was realizing that as an individual moving from having worked for so many years in a business where everything else was taken care of by someone else, and now having to think of it and consider every option myself, that it was a totally different mindset that I needed to have. And so I am very happy to see that there are many other people online in a similar situation, and that this is being of such great benefit to you. Richard, are you back? Are you hearing us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Seems that you couldn't hear me just now.
I could not.
Okay.
I can hear you clearly now.
Okay, great. It's a serious thing. We can get outbursts like this.
Yeah, well, you know, Murphy probably has been very, you know, hasn't had as much fun in the last year and a half. So Murphy has to find something to do every now and again.
Okay, I'm good. I'm good to go. All right,
so
now
we were, just to let you know, your screen isn't sharing yet, so we're not seeing your screen.
No, I'm not sharing yet. I'm just talking with you guys first.
Okay, and the video got stuck right after the lady came to, she'd finished her first point, and she was recommending that we should go ahead and follow her other YouTube videos. Can you just tell us the name of that person in case anybody wants to go look her up and follow her?
Once you're inside the toolkit and you click on it, you double click on it, it's going to open all the way right out into YouTube.
Okay, so they will be able to
they'll be able to subscribe and everything. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I've got you guys covered. I've got you covered. The only thing I haven't had covered is this internet connectivity. But
yes, well.
Yeah, but no, she's talking about the 3 layers of certainty. It's a bit on the long side. So what I'm going to do is to leave you to listen to the rest of it, because I need to cover some more ground, and we're still on the first slide. On the first area, sorry. So I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go back and start sharing now.
Yes.
All right. Let's see.
And I see your comment, Keithan. This is from Keithan.
Huh?
Oh, sorry, it's from Leah. Leah has a comment saying that she's fully transitioned out of corporate, and it's a lot more challenging than she thought it would be. But
oh, yes.
I am also doing a lot of different things that I have to manage better. I would love to have a mentor.
Oh, there are mentors around, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, there are a number of different organizations that offer mentors.
Yeah.
Um, I've served as a mentor with a variety of them. So yeah, um,
So
I,
it's very possible for you to find someone and find someone that you're comfortable with, that
yes,
you like what they have been able to accomplish, you like what you're hearing from them, and you want to get advice and input for them. And then you can establish and manage the relationship. Because I've recently made a connection with someone, and I took the liberty of informing them that they're now my business mentor. And so I go to them and get advice and guidance when I need. And it doesn't mean that we have to do it every week or every month, but it's there as a connection and a resource that I can draw on. And it lets you know that you can ask questions from somebody who has the experience. I was just saying to the participants while you were off, Richard, that, I see myself as in a similar situation to them, of course, having worked for so long in a job and now transitioning into starting up a business, that it's a different shift, a different mindset and so on that you have to get into.
it is. As I always use the example that being a good plumber doesn't mean you're going to have a good plumbing business. It's,
True.
because when you're like, if you're a plumber in a hotel, you've got somebody in engineering who's going to send the dockets through for you, do all the paperwork, all that sort of thing. Front office is going to receive the calls that they're going to send the calls out to you. But when you're out here on your own, you have to be receiving the calls on whatever devices that you're going to get them on. You've got to be doing your own marketing. You've got to be doing your own document management. You've got to be doing everything. And then on top of that, you've got the statutory and regulatory commitments that you have got to pay attention to, so that to ensure that your business remains viable, and not that you're working all the time, just going all the way right along. And then all of a sudden you come up against a regulation that stops you dead in your tracks. And you're told that you can't work anymore because you're breaching this and breaching that.
Yeah. We have a nice little way of looking at it here. Rawl is saying it's like moving from income to if come.
Oh yes, just roll.
All right, Richard. So over to you.
All right. So when you're looking at contemplating what is needed, now this is following on from the video that was up here. Contemplating what is needed. There's this book here that you can get from down at BIDC. Or you can order it on Amazon if you have an account, called Regulatory Hacking. It's by Evan Burfield. And what is happening there is that he basically tells you all the things that you need to consider, because all too often, as I read that particular book, you realize that you're operating a business in a field that is an environment that surrounds you, and you don't know that environment. You don't know that environment well. You don't know the things that are there that can benefit you within your environment to help you grow your business. And you don't know the hindrances that are just waiting for you to just trip over them to stop you from growing your business. These are all things that are very real and are right there. So let me ask you a question. Do you know the environment within which your entity operates? For example, regulations governing your business, if any, right? There are entities around the place now, for those of you who are in consulting who want to, what do you call it? The certified consultant, CSC. The CMC, Certified Management Consultants. It's a global body, and what they try to do is to get everyone come under the body of consulting. And the thing about it is that I had a difficulty trusting that process, because when I looked at it the very first time around by the person who introduced it to me, they're no longer around, so I can speak freely. I didn't trust the process because, when I first wanted to do collaborations with that same individual back in the day, they said to me, they spoke down to me and, oh, they've got this client and they've got this whole range of clients that are very, very big, and their clients have to line up to meet with them and all this sort of thing. And I'm like, what? And I saw that within that same year, their clients were in my sessions. Their clients were meeting with me, because you've got to be so very careful when you're going up the ladder, how you treat the people that you pass on your way up, because you might very well encounter those people again on your way back down. You understand? And what's happening is that when you're looking at the regulations governing your business, you've got to look at the statutory commitments. Businesses around here, I find, do not use anything called tax planning. There are some entities, they don't even understand the rules. When you are an employee, you get paid what is left back after you pay your taxes, because you get this thing called pay as you earn. So your employer will take out your taxes and pay that in, and then you get to spend what is left back, if there's anything left back. When you are in business now, first you get to spend, and then you get to pay taxes on what's left back, if there is any left back. You understand what I'm saying? So a lot of people don't recognize that, yes, you do the accounts and all that sort of thing, but if your business needs a printer and the printer costs the same amount as what your taxes worked out to be, by all means, go and buy the printer and write it off against the taxes though. You got it? Do you understand that? Or do you want me to go over it again really slowly? Taxes are not something that you fear. Taxes are something that just let you keep track of what your obligations are. And so many people, I remember back in the day, a guy came to audit me from one of those same statutory corporations. I got 2 audits in 1 year. Rest assured, I'm going to tell you right now, if you're in business, by the time you come up to your 5-year mark in business, you will get audited by one of the statutory entities. BRA is going to come for you. So make sure that you keep good, sound, solid records. They're going to come for you. And how they do it is that through the paper trail of different entities, they might audit one of your clients, your name comes up, so then they come and find out exactly what it is that you're doing. You understand? So make sure that you keep good records. Make sure that you keep good, you know what your business is earning, and you know what you are earning. There was something when we were talking about the strategies of companies and of entities when you're setting up. If you have a limited partnership, for example, or let's use limited partnership for ease of reference. And let's compare that with a corporation or a limited liability company. With a limited liability company, you're taxed twice. You're taxed at the corporate level, and then when you get paid, you are taxed at the personal level. When you have a limited partnership, you're taxed once at the personal level. You understand? So it goes on your personal income tax form. But of course, since you're running the business, you get, you might get some exemptions, or some incentives for, especially if you do things like bring in foreign exchange. You understand? So that's why when it's good to live here, but not necessarily work here. So I was going to tell you about this guy who, I got audited, and at that time it was, VAT was up like not too long ago, and they had this big deal about what was a receipt and what was a tax invoice. And I at that time I paid everything by check. And what the people did was give me the things, and I saw the tax number on it and all that sort of thing. So I, stapled everything nicely and put them up. And the guy told me at the time that what I have is receipts and not tax invoices. So therefore he's going to disallow my documentation, which means that I would then have to pay taxes again on what I paid taxes on before. And this is why you must know your regulations. So then at that point in time, I said, you know what? You don't have anything over money that came foreign exchange, money that's earned from outside the island, do you? He said, no. So then I took the pen and I went, well, therefore I disallow. And I came right down the list. and I crossed off all the things where I made money overseas. So when he thought that he hit the mother load, he realized then that, you know what came down from 5 figures came all the way down to very low four figures. Right? What they would do when they come to audit you is put a rookie on you who's trying to prove their stripes and prove their worth. So they're going to try to dig up every single thing. So what needs to happen is that you got to keep your records. You got to be aware of when the transactions took place, and make sure that you have supporting documentation and supporting notes of what the transaction governed. For example, don't just go and eat out. If it's a meeting, do you have the minutes for the meeting? Do you have, you understand what I'm saying? Make sure that you have that sort of information there to support that it was a meeting, and that it was not just that you're out having a meal and try to write off against the business. When you go to the gas station, make sure you get your tax so that you can claim back your gas. Through the Income Tax Act, there's a percentage that you claim back as a result of using your car. Even if it's your personal car, you can claim a percentage of that for your business. The same thing if you're working from at home. There's a percentage that you can claim back for working at home against your utilities, and you can allocate a small rental based upon the square footage that you occupy and everything like that. All right. I hope that this is helping you. So then you also have incentives and exemptions. Now, what's an incentive? An incentive could come in 3 different forms. It could be economic incentive, it could be a social incentive, or a moral incentive. So far, I'm still waiting for the incentives that make you feel bad if you don't pay your taxes, in terms of they keep coming with this thing about if you don't pay your taxes on time, they're going to penalize you. Why not create an incentive where it's to make you feel that you're exhibiting your patriotism if you pay your taxes. Maybe they will get more people to come out the woodwork and pay their taxes. All right. Then you have the exemptions. All right. And the exemptions are, what you get in terms of liabilities imposed being waived and any other obligations that you might have. Coming on down, we look at what is your local and international appeal. If I say that something is a teaspoon here in Barbados, and somebody tells you that something is a teaspoon in New York or the UK, what amount do you expect? Really quick. You can type it in the chat really quick. Okay, too long. You would expect a teaspoon. Yes, still, we've all had the experience, for those of us who might have gone abroad. If you look at a large here, and you say you want a large drink, like say you go to Chefette, you want a large drink. And then you go overseas and you say you want a large drink in one of those fast food outlets out there. What you get as a large drink here is a small over there, right? Because the standards are different. So the thing about it is that standards give you marketability. So what are you going to do in terms of standards to help you get that marketability? What are you going to do in terms of ensuring that your business is, you were saying earlier about the amount of secret level, the level of secrecy in business, but you want to ensure that people know your rates, so that then if you go from one entity to the other, the rates are uniform in terms of the quotations that are being given. Then you can sell on value and not necessarily try to compete on price. If you try to compete on price at all, you just become the commodity. All right.
Richard, we had a question a little while ago. Do you need to be incorporated to do those things? This is when you were talking about the incentive and exemptions. Someone's asking, do you need to be incorporated to do those things?
No, you don't need to be incorporated. You can, that's available for business. Once you're in business, you do those things. You don't need to be incorporated. You just need to know the regulations and know what you can and cannot do and make it work for you. Right? Like take for example, for those of you starting up the business now, how many of you know of the trust loans? Really quick. If you know if you know of the trust loans, put your hands up. I mean, not put your hands up, put your, say yes, I know. Just say, type yes, really quick. Okay, so nobody knows of them. All right, which means that you also did not know that they give you like around $5,000 and then really special rates of repayment. How many of you listen to opportunity calls, which usually has a lot of opportunities for you, especially if you're in a consulting arena, to be able to provide work? How many of you subscribe to certain places that you can get information? I apologize for the noise, people. I have no idea where that's coming from, but it's not at this property, so I apologize. How many of you know of where you can get, what was I saying? Marjorie?
You were talking about opportunity calls, then you were saying there are different places you can subscribe to find out what's available, especially if you're in consulting.
Right. And also, how many of you subscribe to areas that put out projects? There's a website that sends me projects on a monthly basis about projects around the globe. You know, and you can subscribe there and you can get all this information about projects that's coming out to you, right? For those of you who are in consulting, have you decided whether you're going to be doing the type of consulting that puts together proposals to go after projects, or are you going to be in the type of consulting where you do a level of work that the projects come and hunt you? What is it going to be? Right? So those are things that, you know, I remember back when I first started, a West Coast hotel called me and said, you know what, we want you to come and do some training, Richie. I said, like, fine. And then, you know, the conversation was going lovely until they said to me, you know, our standard is that we pay in 90 days. I said, well, you know, our standard is a little bit more like Chefette. They say, what do you mean? I said, you can look at the menu all you want, but unless you pay first, you're not getting nothing off of there. And, you know, we quickly then understood where each other was coming from, and they were reluctant to want to go that route of paying first. And I just said, you know what, not all business is good business, and I let them go, because I am not going to pay for, I'm not going to pay for work and then turn around and beg for the money too. You understand? And that's why I find that too many entrepreneurs and too many small businesses do. You give away your work and then people pay you, they don't respect you, and you know, then you got to be around the place, then you can't meet your own commitments. All right, so let's come on down. What are your standards? When you tell somebody that you're going to do a project within a particular time, do you deliver on or before that time? When you tell somebody that you're going to do a project at a particular cost, do you deliver within that fee structure? Remember, when you charge for a project, the person might be seeing you, but not all the money is yours to keep. You are the person who's out front representing the entity, but you should charge in such a way that you have enough money to pay the different people behind, or if you watch Despicable Me, you got enough money to pay your minions so that you can take on more than one project at a time and avoid the feast and famine type of cycle. So how many of you can take on more than one project at a time, more than one assignment at a time? How many of you are able to access training for your team members. For example, your accountants, your bookkeepers, your attorneys, your administrators, your logistics people, your research and marketing people. How many of you are able to access training for your team members in those areas so that you have an informed team, a team that is competent, that can do the level of work that is required? What about access to capital? Do you have family that you can turn to if you have a tight spot, that you can get some funds without necessarily having to go to a bank? Just like, you need some money for 30 days to help you get a project, because you're going to have the money back within a short space of time of 3 weeks to 5 weeks, that you can repay that loan and still have a profit. How many of you can have loans, whether it be the bank or credit union or someplace like Carry Lend? How many of you are incorporated that then you can go after shareholders privately, because you put together a prospectus that you can go and say, okay, great, this is what I want to do within the business. This is what it's going to cost to get involved. This is a share certificate that's available. And you have a registry of shares so that you can either get your business going without diluting the ownership of the business, or you can just offer a financial instrument for shares, which can be preferred shares, which has all the dividends and everything worked out already. How many of you have access to resources that you can use to expand your businesses? For example, land, labor, the equipment that is needed, and even building space. How many of you have access to those things? How many of you plan to get access to those things that you can do what is necessary to grow your business, or even house your business? You want to move the business has to come to a stage you might want to move it from out of your room in your home, and you want to move it into a bigger space, especially for those who are doing manufacturing. How many of you are making plans to enhance and increase your capacity? Are you competing with people within the marketplace, or are you creating alliances with complementary entities who can help your business grow? Are you want to swim in a red ocean of competition with all the other people out there who are going after the same market, or are you going to distinguish yourself that you go in and deal with a market that everyone else is ignoring, and it's lucrative, so that by the time others figure out what you have done, you are in, they can't easily adapt and copy it. Any questions before we move on?
We had just one comment. Someone was pointing out that a lot of those things you mentioned are expensive for a startup. They intend to do it as they get incorporated down the line, but for right now, they were considering it a little too expensive.
That's because they don't know where to look to find the money to get it done. That's why.
Okay. Where are some suggestions for where they could look to find the money to get it done?
I have that further down, but I'm not
okay.
I got that further down within the presentation.
All right.
Right.
Then no other questions at this time.
All right. So I'm going to go on here now to, I'm going to move on to what you need to know before you grow. All right. Oh, how am I doing on time? Okay. If I were to say that there are 5 key growth considerations for SMEs, what would you say to me? Is that true or false? How many of you know your customer and can really say that you know your customer? What do you do to get to know your customer? Do you know what your customers' likes are? Do you know what their orders are? Do you know what their preferences are in terms of how they like to pay, how they like to have their orders delivered, what time frame, what time of day? What kind of information do you have on your customers? Are all your customers local, right? Or do you have some that are global? Then, what is your channel for delivering to your customers? Do you have a strategy for working that channel? Are you out there going chasing customers, or do you have a system set up where your customers come and chase you? What is it that you're doing? Do you focus on what you do well and you let others do the rest? Or are you trying to be everything to everyone? Are you ready to make changes in order to enhance your business? These are the things that you have to ask and answer for yourselves and your businesses. All right? If you're looking at maximum growth, tell me some of the things that you think that you need to do to grow your business. What would be some of the things? Don't jump up all at once. What would be some of the things that you think you need to do to grow your business? Do I need to call names? If you have a business, what would you need to do to grow it? Don't be shy. This is the place where you come to make mistakes,
We
because
have someone saying relocate to a larger space.
relocate to a larger space.
Yeah,
Okay.
somebody else is saying a strategy plan, and then to be able to adapt.
Yeah.
Shift
What
to
else?
online.
Pardon me?
Shift to online.
Yeah. Okay.
Grow
Keep going.
revenue. Build a comprehensive team. Market effectively. Invest in a retail space. Work your strategy. Be disciplined about realizing your goals. Expansion of team. So apparently it wasn't that people didn't have answers. They were busy typing.
Ah, that's what it is. Okay. Let me take a little peek there so I can just have a point of reference. All right. So you listed a whole lot of things, because what you've done here is you listed what you think that you need to do for maximum growth. How would you then put those into your strategy? How would you then make those things tangible that you've suggested just now? First of all, do you know what a strategy is? Talk to me. Hello, nobody's
No
talking.
responses
Hi,
yet.
so I was saying, prior to COVID, my strategy was to shift to online because I was getting a number of requests from clients who I met locally and who travel back to their country. So I started the move to shifting online, and I actually developed a strategy for to shift to online, and I laid out all the various steps that I needed to go through. So it was basically a rebranding strategy and an expansion strategy, or a strategy to scale the business.
Within your strategy, do you stress test it?
I'm in the process of doing that right now.
Okay, what kind of stresses you plan to use?
Okay, so in order to make sure that my strategy to shift to online is so I have 3 brands. One is very high end, which I'm not concentrating on right now. One is what I would call my bread and butter line, which is the one that sells continuously. And then the one where I'm shifting to online, it's the specific target market I'm going after is I have the price point and I know who my client is. But what I decided to do was to do a smaller pop-up shop of the lower end line and promote it to see how the sales are going and to test my ability to ship and get goods to customers within the time frame. So I'm doing that on a small scale.
How's that working out?
In the process of doing it right now, because I had an issue where my bank would not allow me to use PayPal on the account, and the clientele that I was going after do use PayPal significantly. So my bank was only trying to get me to do credit card transactions.
You understand why?
Yeah, because they're not getting a piece of the pie from PayPal. But okay. I found a bank and I found a mechanism to work it in the short term
You want to tell me
until
what
I
it
can
is?
switch banks. Yeah, I'm using my daughter's PayPal account in the US.
Okay. Have you ever heard of Payoneer?
Who?
Payoneer.
Obviously not.
Payoneer. Payoneer.com.
No, I know Figaro, but the issue with Figaro is that Figaro means I have to. Yeah, Figaro is just really difficult, and because I'm paying a fee monthly, I didn't want to go that way
You break it up.
because I didn't. I don't know Payoneer. I know Figaro. Figaro is my other option. But the problem is that the banks
Check
in
out Payoneer.
Barbados, yes, but do the banks in Barbados allow payments from that to your bank account?
From Payoneer?
Yes.
Girl, this thing sweet like cook food on a Sunday that your mother cook. Here's
My
what I mean.
grandmother.
Oh, well, your grandmother then. Because then once you start doing transactions through there, Payoneer will send you a debit card, a master debit card that you can access your money from just about any ATM anywhere at all in the world.
Are you speaking about the same system that Airbnb is using for their clients? Where
I'm not sure if
yes,
Airbnb-
because Airbnb uses a system like that where they send you a card and the funds are go to the card and you're able to use the card. My thing though is, yes, it's okay, fine to say that it's going to the card. What I want in order to be able to keep track is for the funds to be funneled into my bank account. Therein lies the problem, because I want to be able to think. But I've been researching the different models, and as I said, the one that PayPal uses, not PayPal, the one that Airbnb uses is the one where you get a MasterCard, and
Right.
all your funds are sent to the MasterCard, and that's what you use, and you can use it to purchase stock or use it in the machine or whatever. My
Correct.
thing though is that I really would, you see, to set up the accounting system to be able to follow those funds, it means I have to don't go outside the box again. And right now I'm already trying to do stuff outside the box. And yeah, it's a lot to do when you're trying to scale. All right. And I'm trying to put things in place, especially when you're trying to scale. You have to relocate to a bigger space. You have to train people, because if you have a small staff, when you're going to online, you're anticipating that you're going to have an increase in sales, but you can't wait until then to start training people in
Correct.
the techniques in order for them to be able to keep pace with when you get orders. So it's a lot as a small business and as an SMSE to scale, especially post-COVID, where during the COVID period, there was no income at all.
When during the COVID period, you mean for this year or last year or both?
I'm talking about for last year, and then the subsequent, after things opened up in last year, towards the end of the year, there were some sales, but then with the shutdown again, there were no sales. And COVID, the whole, whatever happened with COVID, the whole debacle that COVID brought to the world, only confirmed to me that I was going the right way pre-COVID to switch to online, because I had already started, I had already developed the strategy to switch to online. It's just that COVID, the existing business was funding that switch, right? So when COVID came and all revenue stopped, everything stopped. But I'm trying to get back on track now, and that's it.
Okay. It sounds like you got some action going on there. You can take a look at the same platform that I told you about not too long ago, because you can manage multiple currencies. Everything is managed online on your computer screen. And then if you didn't want to bring it down to the debit card that they can issue you, you can always say which account. And they work with Barbados. Barbados is on their listing where you can bring it down to your Barbados account.
Can you please type that information in the chat, please?
Sure. Marjorie, you got it? Payoneer?
I did that. I did it already, yes.
Okay, cool. And it's Payoneer.com.
So what I've typed is just Payoneer, because that's
Yeah.
what sounds strange to people. So
And
it's
then-
payoneer.com.
.com, yeah. It takes like 3 days to get the authorization, and then from there you're good to go.
Okay, well, I will have to let my webmaster know because he's setting up all of the background in order to be able to receive the payments.
Yeah,
And he will have to investigate it to make sure that it's gonna work with the website.
it will work with the website. So, but yeah, you can check it out. Have him check it out. It's always good to do your due diligence so that you know for yourself. Anybody else? Thank you so much for sharing with me. Who was I speaking with just now?
Catherine.
Okay, I can't tell
Hi,
from my this Catherine Ross.
Catherine Rochford. Yes,
Hi,
it is.
Catherine. Yeah, I
Hey.
can't tell who was speaking because I got the presentation up on my screen.
Yeah, no, okay.
Yeah. All right. Proper. Anybody else want to share? Before I move on, going in 3, 2.
Not necessarily asking a question, but just saying that thanks for the info so far, especially about Payoneer, because I also was trying to do some research on how to get my business set up and the way I can receive through PayPal, and Payoneer seems to be a much better option. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and you can manage multiple currencies, like especially if you have different markets and everything like that. You can go through and check the currencies for the markets that you do most of your business in. So then you can, like say for example, if you do business in the US and then the UK, then you could do, and then you keep one in Barbados so that you in Barbados currency, and you can move between the various currencies. You can move around the funds, and then you can decide where you want your money to come down to which account so that you can access it. All right. Okay, moving on. What are some of the obstacles to your growth? When we look at your businesses, what would you say are some of the obstacles? Right? Yes, I understand that there are some times where you have limited information. You have the what you call it? You have limited access to resources, all of those sorts of things. But what are some of the other obstacles that you experience?
Right now, Richard, my biggest obstacle is distribution, logistics. I've been working to, I was investigating companies in Barbados and I thought I had it down pat, but then customs is now saying that what I want to do is gonna be too difficult. And it's just a whole set of confusion that's really making me look at doing my distribution from outside of Barbados, possibly from in the US.
Customs is saying it's gonna be too difficult to do what? To send the things out?
No, here's my problem. Okay, so in order to scale, I can no longer handmade things 1 by 1 by 1 by 1 or 6 by 6, because right now, when we do production for this market, we do either half a dozen or a dozen. Okay?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. In order to scale and go online in the market, I'm going after. I can't be doing that. Okay?
Why not?
So, pardon me?
What's the reason that they give for not being able to do that?
You mean logistics?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm explaining. So I'm saying to you that some of my components and some of my items cannot be made in Barbados to the quantity that I will need for an online store. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Therefore, I have to subcontract production outside of Barbados, which means if I subcontract outside of Barbados, okay, they have to be shipped into Barbados. Okay.
Right.
So if I ship them, yeah, I'm gonna move. Sorry about that. I'm actually at community college. Hold on. So if I have the stuff produced outside of Barbados, okay.
Hello? Hello?
And I bring them in.
You're breaking up. Catherine? Is it my internet or?
No, I'm not hearing her either. So we seem to have a difficulty there. Maybe as she's shifting around, something has gone wrong.
Okay.
Catherine? Yeah, she may have moved out a strong Wi-Fi zone. While you wait for her to come back, Chad has his hand up, so perhaps you can answer his question when Catherine comes back.
Sure.
You can carry on with her. So
All
Chad?
right.
So mine wasn't necessarily a question. It was more of a contribution and a co-signing to Catherine. I'm actually a logistics professional. My background is architecture, but I fell into logistics and absolutely loved it. One of the issues, but I completely understand what Catherine is talking about, because she doesn't, from what she's explaining, if she has it outsourced, and trying to benefit from whether it be economies of scale or just low labor costs, etc. When she starts to bring it in, she's no longer a manufacturer. She's an importer, and that shoots, depending on what it is that she's bringing or what her product is, it falls into different tariffs that might shoot her out of the market or out of range for anything to be done in a profitable way. In addition to that, bringing things to shipping to and from Barbados is incredibly, to the Caribbean really, is not only expensive, but it's difficult and in a lot of ways not necessarily feasible. So if she might have gone to customs and gotten a response on something that it's very possible, but just because of things like minimums and all the rest of it that come into the lines and vessels and agents wanting to move cargo, it becomes that much more expensive, and you almost price yourself out to the market just by looking into these opportunities and thinking outside of the box. I think Catherine is coming back in now because I'm seeing her icon coming back up, and I just want her to finish her point. But there's something that I want to add after she's finished, and I'm sorry for cutting in if I've taken any of your points, Catherine.
No problem. You've clarified. Catherine, can you hear us?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Now we can.
No,
Now we can.
yeah.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, because I was there talking and I realized that nobody could hear me. So what I was saying is that my business is going to be a mixture of two, okay? There are components that have to be cast, especially in terms of jewelry. There are components that have to be cast, but they'll come back here for manufacture because the rest of the stuff is being made here because I'm using some local components. And those also need to go into the warehouse so that there's one central location for distribution, if you follow what I'm saying. So the items that are made externally will come in and they're housed, and then the items that are made here, once they're finished, will go into the warehouse, so everything ships from one warehouse to make the logistics of shipping easier. So this is the biggest roadblock to me expanding to online, because I cannot let my website go live until I have my distribution down, because you know, I would kill my business if I don't have the distribution part done ahead of time to make sure that, you know, everything runs smoothly, right? I've already contacted DHL, already dealt with the post office, already got the rates and everything like that. My thing is to house everything within one warehouse where things can be shipped. Yes?
You can't get that done with trade agreements, so that when the things come on in, just now Chad was explaining that, you know,
yeah, I didn't hear a word he said. I'm so sorry.
No,
Not a problem. Like Catherine, what you're doing is, sorry, I'm in the UK at the moment. It's setting up exactly what it is that people like yourself are finding out challenges with. And I just got a warehouse and set up a warehouse for persons to be able to do things like this. So it's interesting that you need a situation or need a solution like this. So if you can, just shoot me a message, or I'll shoot you a message and send you.
So I'll put my email in the chat. I'll put my email in the chat, and you can send it to me. So where's your warehouse located?
It's in Lear. I have one in Lears and one in Warrens. So both of them are very central.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah, both of them are very central locations, and there are lots of people, particularly because I did do a lot of work for NCF, and when it was cultural industries development, what we would do is help get persons up and distributing into not only Latin America, but the US, UK, Far East,
Uh-huh.
etc. So
Okay. Okay.
I have
Okay.
a pretty
That
good
makes
idea of
sense.
what you will probably need.
Uh-huh. And
And
the software I was looking at was HandyFox.
right,
You're familiar with that one?
yes.
Okay,
What it
right.
is, take
Because
your
obviously that would
information.
link to the website, and also is compatible with QuickBooks Online, so that the accounting would be on par, because you know how customs is with accounting and stuff like that. But my thing was
Absolutely.
that customs was telling me that I needed to have a separate building. It needed to be air conditioned. It needed to have a
Your
bathroom
best
for
bet
the
is
guy.
to not only go through NCF. Oh, sorry, not your best bet is not only go through NCF, but to go through either NCS or BM, Barbados Manufacturing Association. They will give you everything that you need, and then you can classify yourself as a manufacturer.
No,
And
but
then-
I am registering. I was previously registered
great,
as a manufacturer, but I closed that business. So now I'm restarting, and I
Right.
am in the process of incorporating this particular business. And then I will, once I'm incorporated, I will apply for the duty-free concessions for this business.
Beautiful.
And then I'll be ready to go. But I'll put I don't want to keep it up anymore. I'll put my email in the chat and you can
Yeah,
contact me.
not a problem.
Thank
Sounds
you.
good. Thank you.
All right, and chat, there's someone else who has indicated an interest. So also check the chat
Yeah,
just to
I'm
see if there are
seeing,
any
Keith
other
and-
email
Keith and
addresses.
Laurie. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
All right, even as I'm listening to the exchange, I hope that all of you are paying attention also to one of the things that can be an obstacle to growth is if you don't properly protect your intellectual property, you can get barred from various markets. So you want to ensure that you check with the BIDC. I'm going to come down to that area just now. But you want to make sure that your intellectual property is covered and protected. All right. Now, Chad, I want to thank you for your input, as well as Catherine. I want to thank you for your information that you shared there, and it seems to have helped somebody else. I'm not sure who the other person is right now, but I guess Margie would know that.
It was Keithan as well. Keithan was the one who added her information because
Okay.
she's very interested.
Okay, perfect. Right. So then, how do you identify opportunities correctly? If you have to look at market penetration, what does that mean to you? If you had to look at a resource for market penetration, what is that? Right? Do you have a strategy for penetrating the market? I put this article up here so you can see what market penetration is, and you can go through this and see, and this is under a business plan, bit of software. So it shows you what are some of the components that you need to look at when you're building a market penetration strategy. All right. For example, are you a market leader, or are you in the industry? Have you created an industry with what you're doing? Are you well established or not? Can you leverage economies of scale? Are you strong with your pricing position, or can you improve it, enhance it? Is awareness for your business high? Right? You've got to determine if you're one of these mass market entities, or if you're going to be operating more of a boutique type of approach. Right? Then, what are your distribution channels? What are your relationships with your vendors? These are things that you need to know, so that then you can see where your supply chains are, both coming in and then going out of your entity. All right. What are some of the hiccups that you can experience? As you would have known with COVID, where you had entire port shut down, it interrupted and disrupted a whole lot of supply chains. Right? You would have noticed that when you went in the supermarket, and then you realize that certain products that you would have gotten ordinarily without even thinking about it were no longer available. Along with market penetration, you got to look at your product development. What are some of the products that you have to develop? Are they viable? Do they have potential to become viable? What's your market development? In terms of your market, does it have the potential to develop even further? What are some of the considerations that you have there? Then you come across your diversification. You know, somebody asked me earlier about the holding company near to the beginning. Oh boy. So does your business have the opportunity that you recognize that you can set up an entity that complements what you're doing as your core business, and then that in and of itself becomes a business which allows you to diversify and be able to have two businesses complementing each other in order to serve the end user? All right. Any questions? None? Okay. And then keep on going. So in terms of your market development, it's a strategic step taken by a company to develop the existing market rather than looking for a new market. Does your market, and then there are some of you who are looking at starting up businesses, do you see opportunities or potential for you to grow within the existing market that you're going to go into? Or are there markets that are on top totally that you can go and capitalize on? Why are you getting into business? What is it that's going to make you get out of bed every morning to want to go and do the business that you're planning? Tell me. Is it something that you're going to enjoy or endure? Are you excited about your business? Are you doing it as a means of survival, or are you doing it because you think that it really offers solutions to people out there and they're going to come after you irregardless of any marketing efforts that you put forward? What are some of the things that you need to consider? So when you look at your product or service innovation, are you going to bring new life or a new way of solving customers' problems? All right. Is it going to be a new product or service development? You found that during COVID, a lot of businesses cropped up in the line in terms of doing deliveries. Yet still some of the ones who were doing deliveries from before crumbled, because when the pressure came from the amount of people doing and needing deliveries, those businesses that were doing deliveries imploded because the pressure was just too great, and they did not have the systems to support the sudden expansion. We have a situation here within Barbados where people are here in Barbados, we're very creative. Here in the Caribbean, I should say, we are very creative. Especially in the fashion industry, we do a lot of prototypes that people find that they want more of, that are enjoyable and everything like that. Then they come and say, can I get 70,000 of these? And we don't have that capacity to be able to produce at that level. So then what happens? Our system implodes. And it's happened time and time again. What can we do to ensure that we don't keep on getting stumped with this sort of thing? The sugar industry was one that failed to capitalize on the fact that it switched from food and beverage to the beauty industry. Sugar was no longer used as a sweetener, and those who produced it changed over to the beauty industry, where sugar was then used as an exfoliant. And from an environmental standpoint, it dissolves when you're using it, it goes down the sink, and it does not clog up the drains as the way how sand would, or walnut shells. It does not cut up the skin. So sugar and the entities that we're dealing with that were able to make that transition, yet still we in Barbados missed the boat in that arena, and we still focus upon it as what the traditional use of it was, as a sweetener.
Richard?
Yes, dear.
Okay, so I can speak from the fashion industry. I did a training course in 2017 done by, it's called a Market Readiness Program. It's done by an international organization called Aid to Artisans. And at that event, I did not see, the only Caribbean people that were there were Haiti. And it's a perception. Haiti is actually not considered Caribbean, it's considered ethnic. And I put that with quotation marks. So Haiti gets a lot of help, and Haiti has preferential treatment for its products going into the US market. A comment was made, I asked a panel of 7 people who buy for major companies, Macy's, Bergdorf's, Saks Fifth, Target, all of those people. And I asked them, why is it that I don't see any Caribbean? I walked a whole trade show at Jacob Javits Center. And I asked them, why is it that I don't see products from the Caribbean? And they kind of looked at one another and they were like, do you buy from the Caribbean? No. Do you buy from the Caribbean? No. And this was it. And they turned to me and the comment was, the Caribbean has not been relevant for the last 20 years. And that thing gave me not a heart attack. It just made me very sad. And one of the reasons, same as what you're talking about, the reasons why you can't produce. In this region, people have a mindset that they must actually make the things themselves.
Yes.
Once you've done your prototype, anybody can make it. And what people don't understand is even if you pay $50 US to have an item made, right? But you sell it at $250 US, the benefit accrues to the country because you are getting a significant return on the investment. And a lot of people don't want to let go. Not only do they not want to let go, the other issue that you have is that people do not know where to go and they don't have the information. I was fortunate with having my products that are being made. I know the consultant. I met the person in 2007 in the Dominican Republic when they were working to help Haiti get their, after the hurricane. You remember they had double whammy with the hurricane and the mudslides, etc. Okay, so I met that person and I kept in contact with that person. And the amount of information that that person has been able to translate to me in terms of production, it is amazing. It's the same thing. And the same thing, there's an issue with things like seasoning. I was hearing a long time ago about a shipment that people wanted for seasoning. And it was so obvious that the seasoning producers could have got together and hired a company in the US or somewhere else, given them the recipe and subcontracted them to make the product outside so that they would not have lost that order. And it was a major, major order. People are not thinking about how to have their products made outside of the country. Yes, there's an issue where people can say, well, you're not providing employment, you're not providing this, you're not providing that. But at the end of the day, you will be, if you have your product made externally, it's made to ISO 2001 certification. The companies that make your product, I'm speaking specifically for fashion, they know the specific stitch lengths, they know what are the criteria for the fabric definition and all of those things going into the various countries, okay, which people here don't know. So I think that a mindset change is also essential for people to understand that the world is no longer separated. You can have your products made anywhere as long as the benefits, the foreign exchange accrues to the value of your country, the value added. They can make anywhere in the world. Designers do not make in the US per se, they make in different countries.
Correct.
So just my contribution in terms of why it is that fashion has not penetrated the market, even though they have beautiful prototypes or beautiful ideas. It's because they need to understand that they need to change the way they're thinking and have these products produced where it's best.
One of the things, if I can tag on to what you're saying there, so Catherine, is that within the fashion industry, everybody wants to be a designer nowadays when they come out from school. And they're going to study and they want to be a designer. No one any longer wants to be a tailor, so you can hardly find anybody that can make a good suit anymore. Um, and you know, they kind of design themselves out of the stage of being relevant. They want to, oh, I can make this and I'm going to put on my own fashion show and all this sort of thing. And they put on their own fashion show to show the kids, run up a whole lot of expenses to show things to their family who cannot and will not probably buy anything from them, rather than having
No, they also know the target market. You have to know your target market, and it's not just fashion. You have to know your target market. You have to know who you're selling to. You have to know what they do. Is this person a housewife? Do they have disposable income? Okay, when you know who your target market is, then that will dictate the type of fabric you purchase in order to make the garment. Because a woman that has 3 kids, that's on the go every day, is not the same woman who is single and who has disposable income. They're going to wear different clothing, you know? Correct. So it's also a matter of research, understanding who you are selling to. Because if you don't know who you're selling to, when you produce the item, what are you going to do with it? Mm-hmm. And it's not just fashion, that goes for every single thing. You have to know where you're putting it. If you're doing sauces, condiments, or any other thing, where on the shelf is it going? Who are you selling to? In which market is it going to? You know, is it high end? Is it low end? What's the price point? All of those things are very relevant. And unfortunately, those are things which people have not taken the time to go and invest in researching the knowledge in order to be able to move their products forward.
There's a approach that I take to business, which is called doing the swan. And what it means is that on top of the water, you look smooth and graceful and everything like that. But underneath, you're kicking like mad. Take, for example, for today's session, we had registered over 16 different countries and over 20 plus types of employment, fields of employment. And the reason that I know that information is because I thought, and I maintained that I needed to know how to structure any examples that I'm going to use so that they would have relevance for the participants, so that in the final analysis, when a participant leaves this program today, they can take the information that they would have learned, apply it, and get results within a 24 to 48 hour period. That is the sort of that's the sort of standard that I put on myself for doing training programs and for doing anything at all that I do in terms of business development. Right? These are the sorts of things that you need to do if you're going to maintain a sort of relevance, if you want to distinguish yourself from the rest of the people who are out there. Now, like take for example, apart from training, one of the other things that we do is business development, where we prepare business plans. We are not the cheapest guys on the block. We are a bit more expensive, but some people, where they prepare the business plans, hand them to you, and then you are expected to figure out what's the next thing to do. We prepare the business plans, then we make the appointments, and we go in with you to get things done so that you can get the financing. So we go to the appointments with the people and everything like that. So what happens is that the client pays for that full service. You understand what I'm saying? That's the sort of value that you bring. So then when you look at it, are you seeing then, especially when our success rate is up in the high 90s, are you seen then as an expense or as you seen as an asset? More often than not, we are seen as an asset. People might exclaim at the outset and say, well, wow, your business plans are expensive. I said, yes, and dear too. But by the same token, even though you're paying for a business plan and you're going to see me, you're not going to see the rest of my team who's working behind the scenes to ensure that you get things out there. So you're not going to see the chartered accountant. You're not going to see the market researcher. You're not going to see, the operations person who checks to make sure that everything ties back in, that when you do a timeline between when you put out the promotion and when you got to roll out from an operational standpoint what the promotion says it's going to do, all of those things need to be considered. You understand what I'm saying? So all the moving parts needs to be in place. Too many people don't do that. Or yes, you have a thing where you find out what it is that the financial institutions want, and you prepare everything that they need and you try to take away the excuses from them, but in terms of preparing everything just as they would have if they were working in your organization. So it's not just preparing projections, but also applying the ratios to ensure that the ratios make sense. So that by the time that they do the ratios, it's like, oh, well, we've done the thing. And you analyze the ratios and you put that information inside of there so that they can't say that it's not a winner. You understand what I'm saying? When then you're looking at that sort of thing, you got to look at you're looking then at how your product has been or service has been innovated to the extent that when somebody hears of your reputation, they're going to come and get you. So when you go in, you're not going to meet the guys at the front door who are the customer service people. You're going in to meet them with the managers, the people who can make the decision, who can say yeah or nay, or this is what you need to tweak in order to get it done. You understand? So when you're looking at diversification, what are some of the things that you need to look at within your diversifying how your business or product and service is being viewed? What are some of the things that you need to look at? Any questions so far? Any comments? Any inputs? I got anything coming back at me yet, Marjorie?
No, no questions in the chat.
All right, let me keep on rolling.
Yeah,
So how do you grow sustainably, right? What resources do you need for growth? Well, you know, people always say knowledge is power, but only when it's put to use. So you need to know the regulations governing SMEs, right? What are some of those regulations? And then you got to find out then how they can be of benefit to you. I put an article there that you can read. We do not have the time to discuss it because, you know, this time goes by very quickly. But what you can do is that we can always have another session afterwards at some point where we can get together and discuss some of these things. Do you know of the Business Development Act for SMEs here in Barbados? What does it entail? I put it up here too, again, with a hyperlink right here so that you can go see it, familiarize yourself with it, and get things really growing so you can grow your business. Then, what additional help do you need for your business? Well, you can get assistance through BIDC. Right now, as of this year, they started focusing on exports, and between them and Caribbean Exports should be able to help you get access to the export market, and also Chad, right, Chad? They should be able to help you get your products and services out into the export arena. Then you have Enterprise Growth Fund Limited. Because they are a quasi-governmental entity, they are going to tie back in with the dictates of government in order to kickstart the economy, to help you get access to funds, to help you get back out there quickly so that you can also start being economically viable. You have Caribbean Export, who I mentioned before, who often put out a whole lot of information, about exports and export opportunities that you can capitalize on in order to be able to have not only the export capacity, but also channels to whom you can export. You have the Central Bank of Barbados. They have enhanced finance schemes to help you gain access where if you don't have enough collateral to get funding from out of the banking system, they would guarantee your funds so that in the instance, that you default, they would pick up the slack and be able to repay the commercial banks on your behalf. But in order to access that fund, you must go through a commercial bank. You have trust loans. I spoke about that earlier in today's session. And then you have the Cherry Tree Trust, which is another entity that is run through First Caribbean. And they assist, it's a trust. So you have very nominal fees when it comes to paying back for any funds that you would have accessed through that particular program, right? Now, what I'm going to do is, you heard earlier about breakthrough performance coaching. And what I'm going to just do is give you a small introduction right here, and then we're going to move on then to strategies and operations. Oh, great. By a show of hands, let's see how many people on here today believe that breakthrough performance coaching is helping you to break through and to enhance your performance in today's session. If you think that that's what's happening today, just type yes in the chat. And as we prepare to move into strategies and operations. Okay, so I am not seeing anything. Marjorie, are you?
Yes, I'm seeing the chat and we have a lot of people saying yes. So thank you. So glad to know that this information is proving useful and that it is really hitting the point with a lot of people who've been able to join us.
All right, great. So now we're going to look at managing diversity without killing yourself. Diversity is the differences in racial, ethnic, socioeconomic, geographic, and academic/professional backgrounds, right? So people have different opinions. They have different backgrounds. They have different religious beliefs. They have different political beliefs. They have sexual orientations, heritage, and life experiences. The thing about it is that once you're in business, you're going to come in contact with people who have views that differ to yours. How are you going to cope with them? How are you going to interact with them? How can you make that interaction experience positive so that it is something that where there's mutual benefit to your business and there's mutual benefit to them, the customer/client. When considering diversity, you got to look at how your businesses interact in the environment and how good and how well is it equipped. You've got to know your situation. Do you think that you can handle a customer who is going to come on in and they have a different religion from yours? They have a different orientation in terms of belief system from yours. Are you going to spend time arguing with them to try to convince them of what that they should be in alignment with your belief system? or is your role to serve them in a professional manner? Is your approach going to be customer service, or, as we say here in Barbados, customer service? Which is it going to be? People, we have got to be able to learn how to manage diversity. We've got to learn to be able to recognize that the world is shrinking, and therefore we're going to come in contact with people that we may not have before. We've got to learn that we've got to learn that within business now, we have to be able to accommodate and understand differences in culture, differences in approaches, lifestyles, everything. We've got to be, you know, that there are some people who are in business who are afraid to speak with people who have money, or some people confuse service with being subservient. What are your views? What are your thoughts? When considering diversity and how our businesses interact in this environment, are you equipped? Do you know that right now, if you say the wrong thing, if you do the wrong thing, because of the prevalence of social media, you can get negative publicity that can adversely affect or impact your business in such a way that it can be very costly to your operation. How do you ensure that you don't make careless comments or engage in publicity that might be insensitive? What are some of the things that you need to consider? When you look at the fact that nowadays we've seen huge empires crumble because of things like, you know, when some of the leadership drank that tea called infidelity. So people, when you are in business, you realize that it's a cycle that you go through. You go through a cycle of trying to be noticed to get into the public eyes. Then you go through that area where you are in the public domain and everything that you do is scrutinized. And then you go through at the end, on the other side of that cycle, coming onto the smaller side of that bell curve, where you're trying to get out of the public eye and reestablish your privacy. The thing about it is, who sent a call you? Who asked you to come out there, expose yourself, and then you want to make noise that you need privacy? What is it that makes us as a people continually do this? What is it that makes us want to get into business where we expose ourselves, where people see our vulnerabilities, and then we want to say that we want to be private? We do social media, we do TikTok, we do the Instagrams, the Facebooks, and all that sort of thing. And then it's like, too many people know me. We do LinkedIn. What else? There is also Tumblr. We put up our thoughts, our ideas. Some people think that they have to be copying other people in order to get certain things done, and when it's not so. So that being the case, what is it that we are going to do in order to direct the course of our diversity? Let me get some feedback from you right here. And I'm going to go on a discussion of a diverse workforce makes your company more resilient and helps you to grow. An inclusive attitude helps you to attract a broader audience. Customers are increasingly wanting to know that you respect and embrace diversity. Can I have some of your thoughts on that, on that, please? You can speak.
Okay, we have a comment in chat, where
Okay.
Keith-Ann is reminding us not to forget, don't forget gender, because in the list that you mentioned various diversity, I don't know if you mentioned gender diversity.
Gender
And then
diversity,
she,
yes.
and then she also says, check out B for change.
Check out
B for change.
B for change.
Yeah, is that an influencer or a person or a website, Keith-Ann? We're not sure.
Where is it?
It's written in chat. And so I'm just asking her to provide a little bit more
Oh,
information.
okay, I got you now. Yeah.
It's a certification for diversity in organizations. Okay.
Okay. You see, we didn't know
So
that.
we learned something.
Yeah, we learned another regulation. Thanks, Keith-Ann.
Hi,
Is it
Richard.
applicable here within Barbados and the wider Caribbean?
Well, it may not be something that is required, but certainly within the Caribbean, it would be providing us with information.
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard someone speaking just now. Sam,
Hi,
is that
yes,
you?
this is Sam.
Go ahead.
Hi. So I think based on what you were asking, Richard, I think it's really important that part of your strategy for your business when you are starting up has to be what you post on all platforms. You need to consider that because especially when you're now starting and people just know who you are, they look at your business through the lens of who you are. So what you post that you think is just your personal opinion on something, you can be judged on that in terms of your business stance on what you do in your business. So I think strategically that has to be considered as well. The type of things that you post, comment on, is it in alignment with your business values and who you say you are in your business? Will people look at you and say, well, this, what you say you're doing in business doesn't sound like who you say you are on Facebook, so I think that, so that's just my 2 cents contribution of, what I think about social media.
Girl, that 2 cents is skimming. The currency is hiding and powerful.
Right.
No, it's so very true because I had an experience like that before where there was someone I was following on social media and somebody made a post on their social media which contained a whole lot of expletives and it came right through to me. So when I mentioned it to them, knowing that they were in a particular field, in a professional field, they said that that's their personal stuff and they're entitled to their thing. And I'm like, okay, but if you want to let somebody mess up your feed like that, I mean, it was loaded with expletives, and the person they used no words twice, and I was like, wow. So I ended up unfollowing them as a result because I didn't want that kind of information, if you can call it that, coming into my feeds. So yes, I can very well relate to that.
We have a comment here in chat from Michelle. She's saying, Richard, all the aspects that you have mentioned can be involved in the creation of crisis management plans to handle all eventualities as well.
Well, there's a thought, Michelle. How many SMEs have crisis management plans? We often hear about business plans, marketing plans, risk analysis and assessments. We often hear about operational audits. We very rarely hear about crisis management plans. And I find that even some of the larger organizations do not have anything like this, and therefore they're always caught flat-footed.
Richard, I'm in the process of doing a succession plan in which you're calling it crisis management, but I have it in my business as a succession plan where I'm taking out insurance policies on the key people so that if anything happens to any of them, that the funds are there to hire, like for example, me as a designer, if anything happens to me, or if I want to go away for a long holiday or whatever, and I already get sick or something like that, not holiday, because holiday doesn't count, but if I get sick or something happens, the succession plan will allow for money to be there to bring somebody in who is of my same ilk in terms of where I am in the company as a designer and whatever, to be able to manage the designs and do the work that I would do based on my target market, my avatar. They will be able to, my brand essence, they will be able to follow in the line of what the brand essence is to be able to produce the products. And
Right.
I also I've taken out the policy on my key employee who also is very, very important to the company. So I don't know if that's probably a little bit different to risk analysis,
that's part
because
of risk. What you're
that's
talking about
that's
is
part of it.
human insurance.
Right. Mhm.
Yeah, and which is key, because if anything had happened to you, as you said, or to that other key person, the business expenses will be covered until you get back on your feet, so that the business will remain sustainable. You understand? Hello?
Right, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's a little bit
No,
different
yes, I understand. Yeah.
little bit different than the crisis management plan, which could include that, but could also be a little more comprehensive. But that's a good point, Catherine. So thank you for mentioning about key man insurance.
There's also another thing too that small businesses need to realize in terms of building the assets so they can do something. There are certain insurance policies that they can get, like a kind of term life, which has certain tax benefits and all that sort of thing too. Now, from the time you pay your very first premium, you can leverage against it in terms of getting access to loans and everything like that to build your business. So you use it as collateral straight away. I think Sagicor are one of the entities that has such a policy. So those are things that you can do. And most people nowadays who are in business, you should be insured for a minimum of $500,000, because $500,000 is really not a lot nowadays. Sometimes when you're traveling on the road and things happen, you need to be able to have access to funds that you can leverage against in order to keep your business going until you get back on your feet. I've had instances whereby every time that my business was getting ready to take off in a particular direction and I was on the road, somebody would always come and give me a whack, to hit my car, and I mean, it was a hard lick. They would write you off sometimes. And then you have to end up dealing with medical expenses and all that to get back on the road. I remember another time when you remember 9/11 when that took place. I was in the British Virgin Islands, and prior to that, I had an accident where somebody came and hit me again. And the only thing that got through in the mail when 9/11 happened was bills. All the revenues dried up. And I had that settlement that came in from the insurance, and that took me right through that period. And the very last day when I spent the very last cent from that payout, a larger project came in that evening, and I was able then to move on to the next phase of business, right? So people, you've got to put things in place to protect you while you are in business. Does that make sense? Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, look at the time. All right, so using standards for marketability. When you're going to be using standards, you got to ensure that they're compliant to the standards first and foremost. And you've got to look at what the requirements are. You've got to look at what the rules are. Why are these standards even necessary? You've got to look at the regulations governing them, the policies, and the laws. So all of those things go together. Those 1, 2, 6 areas go together to make up what is called compliance. All right. So that being said, you remember earlier I was talking about the teaspoon? A teaspoon in one country should be the same as a teaspoon in another country. In the fashion industry, if you go back there again, if something is made in China and it says large, you can rest assured it's not the same size as something that is made in Chile and said in Chile and says large. Let's say Uruguay. I can't get that mixed up. The that's going to be a bit more of a consistent size. Or sometimes made in the DR, Dominican Republic. Sometimes you could go into a store, like if you go into St. Lucia sometimes, and you go into a store down there, you said you want something large, and then by the time you take it out, you think it's a large, you go in the fitting room to fit it, and it fits you like your little brother's outfit because it's too small or it's too tight. The arms are not consistent with what the rest of the size of the shirt should be, so the arms are really tight if it's a short sleeve shirt. So what's happening there? They did not follow the standards. You remember earlier, Catherine spoke about the ISO standards, so that people are making things according to these standards. What's it going to be for you in consulting? Earlier, I was talking about CMC, Certified Management Consultants. What is it that you need to follow as a CMC? What is it that you need to follow as a trainer? There are some people who saying, who are trainers, and they are expected to follow certain guidelines. There are people in legal. There are people who are in property management and hospitality. There are people who are in insurance. There are people who are food standard specialists. All of these areas carry, and other areas I didn't even mention yet, carry standards for which you must comply, so that there's uniformity across the board and the customers benefit when they say that they must get something. It's going to be of a certain level, a certain caliber, a certain standard, a certain type of material. All of that sort of thing must take place. All right.
I have a question for you, Mr. Blades.
Sure.
Your talk about the standards is important, and I completely agree and get that.
Mm-hmm.
But say, for instance, in fashion, my limited understanding of fashion, when you're talking about clothing, if you have a large, for me, I give a little bit more credence to a brand that, while their sizes might run a little smaller, if they have, or a little larger, if they have a size chart that tells me, okay, this is what a large means, this is the neck, this is the length, this is the waist, etc.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that is then a standard where I can say, okay, well, I go into the size chart and I can see this is what it is. In business and other facets of business, though, how much should we allow? Because in places that I've been in and had conversations around that in particular, is because of what the norm is in a particular place or for a particular culture, where some places like the US they're more accepting of, or it is more readily understood and accepted that their sizes are going to be bigger, while maybe in the Far East or elsewhere, these sizes will be smaller because they're smaller people. That's their culture. That's what's supposed to be accepted. And I don't know how true that is, but that's what I was told, and that's what I went with. Now, in my business now, the cultural norms don't necessarily afford for any and everybody to be successful to the stage that they should be. And I say this because in my business, I've had to take a few different steps and find different ways around what we accept to be as worthwhile in my industry. I'm a young person, a very young person in comparison to those who would be considered dual stars in my industry. And for that reason, or I should say largely for that reason, that might not be the only thing, but for that reason, I've not been able to penetrate in the same way that, or see the same levels of success that other people have been. Granted, I've done very well for myself given my age and the resources that I was able to build from. But because people might see a baby face initially, or what we would call quote unquote baby face, they don't necessarily give me the same, one, respect, or two, be willing to pay the same that they would for somebody who is older or more established or whatever in the industry, even though I might have more qualifications. I might have experienced more. I've done business and handled projects elsewhere and to a much greater degree, and might be able to be of more value to them. So in your estimation, to what extent should we give the cultural norms, the ability to change not only your business and how, but your strategy and how you decide that you're going to be marketing yourself and what services you provide? Because I've seen and realized a lot more success in going overseas. As I said, I'm in the UK now. I do a lot of consulting in Canada, etc. But for some reason, well, for the reasons I established before, I haven't been able to see as much of that success in Barbados. I've done a lot more projects in Jamaica and in Trinidad than I have in Barbados as well. And that's because people don't see me, this young baby-faced person, coming up to them, and this is a person who I should give my business to, respect, and pay for their value.
I had that same problem when I came back to Barbados. When I was in the Bahamas, studying and everything like that, there are guys out there who are like 21, 22 years old, managing big 1,000-room establishments. And you come back here to Barbados and everybody want to tell you about, they want you to be a management trainee. It was a term that they bandied around then. And what they were offering you as remuneration was way cheaper than what you would have been making before you even went to study and you were working in the field. You say baby face, but your voice is like deep. Whereas, you know, I would say that I probably got baby face too, probably all still, but my hair gray. And that's one of the reasons why I keep my gray hair, because you know, when I came back here, people had this perception, you know, because at the time when I came out, they would say, if you got the work experience, they'll tell you that they want the qualifications. And if you had the qualifications, they'll tell you they want the work experience. So when I came back and I said, well, I got both, then they tell me I'm too young. Right. So that's
exactly where the problem is, because so I have a baby face as well. And I'm not a big fan of facial hair myself, but I literally had to grow my facial hair. Particularly when I started my own company, because it gave my face a little more age. And during COVID, particularly during COVID, when we were doing lots of calls and Zoom meetings and so on, it worked in my favor, because people who I would never have gotten space in the room with before are hearing a voice now, and they're not seeing a face. They're hearing a voice and hearing the value and the knowledge behind the voice, and not necessarily seeing the person before them. So then afterward, you make these introductions, or you meet them in person, and you can almost immediately feel the room in the air change when they're like, oh, this is the person I was talking to. Well, I no longer want to, I no longer feel the same way. I'm not necessarily keen on giving you the same that we had agreed on before, or giving you the same sets of responsibilities, because I don't have the same trust, even though I've gotten you to this stage. You know what I mean? So again, that's just a question for me. Where have you drawn the line? Because for me, it was, forget Barbados, I've taken my skill sets elsewhere. But at the same time, I don't want to do that. And just this call alone has highlighted the fact that there have been, that there is a need for people like me. I do a lot of, as I said, I'm a logistics professional. I do a lot of business development in this industry for people who want to either get into the markets that I've established, whether it be warehouses in or trade lanes and channels elsewhere, or helping people overseas get into the Caribbean markets. And I wouldn't want to disadvantage or turn my back on people in Barbados, the people like Keithan or Catherine, because of the bad experiences that I've had or in the past. And yes, Keithan and Catherine will get that exposure, or that assistance through a platform like this. But there are obviously lots of other people who need that. But
let me ask you a question.
The cultural thought process now. I pretty much stopped marketing to people locally. I have no interest in doing it.
Let me
Where
ask you a
do
question, Ted.
sorry, go ahead.
You are the owner of your company.
Yes.
What does your business card say?
What's my
Business card say?
director?
Okay. Director of what?
Business development.
Okay. Here's why I'm saying that to you. I've had people give me business cards before that they said managing director and CEO. And I'm like, okay, how many people work for you? And it was just them.
Mhm.
And I was like, you had to get 2 titles to manage yourself.
Right. Right. Got you.
My business cards never say what is supposed to be reserved for a boardroom.
Mm.
So you see, like business development specialist, that's what's going to be on my business card. You're not going to see senior partner or founding partner on my business card, because that means nothing to them on the outside there.
Right. So
They need to know what is that you're
for in a situation like that, then
Mhm.
does it make more sense? Because I realize that Barbados really isn't the meritocracy that we try to portray. And if it is that I've used these same business cards elsewhere and have not gotten the limitations or the resistance that I have in Barbados. Should I then use or brand myself differently for Barbados? He's saying whether it be logistics professional or something along those lines.
You can do that, yes. That's one of the things that you needed to do.
Mm.
And you probably might need to raise your fees.
Mm.
You probably would, because Barbados also has this mindset that good thing to cheap, cheap thing to good. And if your fees are too low, they're not going to use your services.
Right. But as it stands, I'm not the cheapest person, but I'm also not going to. I understand the person that my service caters for, and I'm not going to price myself in a place that
you don't
doesn't
want to
allow for the people that need my services to not be able to afford them.
No, I understand you. The other thing too is that what you got to position yourself as is always a representative of the company and never the owner.
Gotcha.
Right? Otherwise, you'll find that people will be working for you. You can write a job letter for them. They can go get funding. But then you need to get funding yourself and you can't get any. It's like one of the things of understanding the regulations of the market within which you operate. So if I'm going for funding, I never put on anything that I am anything owner of the business. I'm always an employee of the business.
Gotcha.
You understand?
Richard,
Yeah.
so my business card says designer,
Mhm.
even though I own my business and whatever, and
Yeah.
I don't intend to change that. I want to keep it as designer.
Correct.
But I wanted to commiserate with Chad because I lived your life and I live it every day in Barbados. Yes. I got extremely frustrated, Chad, when I was looking for the distribution to be done. And I remember talking to a customs broker, okay? Because I was trying to do a one-stop shop, have the person who deals with the, like example for the components, when I have to bring in the components, have that person deal with my paperwork, etc. But also have that person be a guide to help me with the documentation that I need for when the products are coming in to be held in the bond, okay? And I thought we had a really reasonable conversation. He asked me what I wanted to do. I said, but look, I'm a designer, I'm a creator. I can manage every single thing to do with the production, the costing, all of those things I need to produce the item. Where I don't want to have to deal with is the distribution, but I still want to have a knowledge of the distribution. That's why I was looking to use the particular software that I spoke about earlier, whereby I would have it on my computer. It would be in the distribution warehouse, and it would also link to the website. Anyway, got off the phone with this guy who's the head. He has his own brokerage company. and spoke to my webmaster because he said he would have to speak to my webmaster in order to tell him what things he would need to do. So my webmaster and I were in an open conversation in Teams, Microsoft Teams, because we use that, you know, to communicate and for passing documents and stuff to make it easier for us to work as a group. And he had the guy on speaker. And the guy was so derogatory about what I wanted to do. Oh, this woman thinks that she can this, but she don't understand this, and she don't know that this is customs, and she don't know how difficult this is going to be, and she don't know that, right? And I said to myself, well, this is so interesting that I heard this, because one of the challenges that I face in Barbados, as well as I try not to overplay my knowledge, because it offends some people. And because of that, I've not gotten, I think, to where I would have liked to have been right now. But by the same token, I am, how do you call it? I'm the fish that swims in the opposite direction to everybody. I like to try new things. I always like to challenge myself.
You're
and so
contrarian.
getting this,
You're a contrarian.
Most definitely.
Yeah,
but what happened is that I am never comfortable, if that makes sense to you. I'm never comfortable. When I've set a goal and I reach that position in terms of the business, I want to say, okay, what's the next step? Okay. And so I find it very difficult in Barbados. One of the things that I find is a real problem is that people always say it can't be done, or this is too difficult, and instead of saying, well, how can we make this work?
Yep. Customs has a very particular and archaic mindset as well. One experience that I had just the week before I left was I was trying to help out a client that I had who needed to meet a deadline, and she was doing something in the port and had a shipment at the airport. So I personally went to assist and to get the thing cleared. Had everything that could possibly be needed. And this much older officer, who it was very obvious he wasn't quite sure about how to go about navigating the new Ascuda World system that we have. It was blatantly obvious. And in me trying to assist him, not only to try to get through this faster, because I also have things to do, but me trying to assist him, his response to me after the second time that I told him where he needed, what information he needed to put into what fields, his response to me was like, young man, I spent 40 years in customs. You can come and tell me how to do my job.
Yeah.
In doing so,
understand.
he then called into the office of the agent. One of the ladies came out and did exactly what I told him to do, which means that it was 37 minutes that he stood there wasting my time and his time and everybody else's time behind me, because he had the thought process that I'm not, one, on his level, or two, able to tell him what to do, as opposed to just maybe trying what was said and would have gotten through much faster. Now, customs have that in their heads, and they are long to themselves.
And they're crazy. They're crazy about it. Yeah.
But it shouldn't be a deterrent. Unfortunately, it has been a deterrent for a lot of people. There are projects that I've consulted on or tried to get to happen in Barbados, and just off of the conversations that were had, people were like, no, this is going to be too much. And they went to places like St. Lucia or Antigua, and they have no interest in Barbados because of that culture in and of itself. But I just wanted to find out from Richard, to what extent and to what extent and degree has he allowed the culture to change who he is and how he markets himself, etc. But what features or what mitigating factors did he put in place to deal with it? Okay.
One of the philosophies that I have, right, Chad? I believe a jet ski could turn on faster than a Titanic. And what I have done, especially in the early years when I was a tad bit younger, not much, but just a tad bit, was to I would outwork anyone. I recently just was dealing with one of the technical assistance entities, and I found out that they were taking a particular approach that I didn't like, because I didn't see it benefiting SMEs really in the way that I thought it should. I thought that a lot of people would be left out. And I went on, there's another program called Telegram, which is something like WhatsApp, but better. It's on like WhatsApp on steroids. And you can have groups, and you can also have channels. The channels allow you to broadcast things, and the groups allow you to interact. And I set up something called Caribbean SMEs Group. And on there, each group could hold up to 200,000 people. And we've got people from all the way in Canada, all the way down to Guyana and everything in between. And we have exchanges whereby we discuss just about anything. And people are finding, just like the way how some of you found here today, that you can discuss topics and people are willing to help you and not charge you. You can do that up inside of there. Create synergies whereby you can do cross-border trading and all that sort of thing. And then, you know, if once you can enter into financial relationships as you see fit. And coming down the group and discussing things on a day-to-day basis and everything like that is for free, right? And you will find that by doing, when you take the initiative, one of the things you also got to do, Chad, is that work for me is to write. So I would write blogs. I would write on social media, things that I think would help the people that that can be my prospects. And when I do business with them and they see me face to face, they would recognize that, listen, I'm just a representative of my entity, but there's another team back behind there who does all the work. But you wouldn't meet them. You understand what I'm saying? And that way they can say, oh, he's just a young fella, but he got a team behind him. He's just the person that we can see. So just position yourself as the front person, and you know, they don't need to know the rest of your team. You understand what I'm saying? Hello? Okay.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Richard, thanks for that.
Yeah. And that has worked for me and paid dividends. The other thing about it is that when I speak, I wasn't allowed to speak Bajan when I was growing up. My mom was a stickler for English, and she says that if you speak it, you'll write it. So I only learned to speak Bajan after coming back to Barbados. And I guess it was necessary to learn that because I could speak fluent Jamaican patois. And when I spoke on the phone to some people, they didn't think that I was a local. And because of the way how I speak, they didn't think that I was even Black. And then when I turned up in the meeting and they realized it was too late because they liked me already. You understand? So you got to conduct yourself professionally in all the things that you do. Let them see you as a professional and as a representative of your organization. And they will see you then as a promising young man going places as opposed to this a young upstart. You understand what I'm saying?
I understand you, but nothing that has transpired even before or since then. Even if I gave them a bio or give anybody a bio, they will. There's nothing that tells you that this is a youngster or that I'm trying to overplay my hand or anything like that. It's just literally stuff that I've done, and I experienced the same thing that you would have experienced, where the way that you speak or whatever is not, or as you mentioned my voice before, it's difficult to imagine a young face with the way that I speak and the voice that I have.
One of the
but it
things
still
now,
poses its issues, you know.
one of the
But
things now, Chad, that works for me. Many years before COVID started, I started meeting people physically.
that
Long
might be
time
the way
ago.
forward.
So
That might be the future.
by the time COVID came in, anybody who wants to meet me physically would have to pay me premium.
Right.
But I've stopped doing that about 8 years now. Like this online training that I'm doing now, I've been doing this ever since. The way how I'm doing the training materials where you're seeing everything like prepared online and there's a toolkit and all. I've been doing this for years. I build entire websites for training. You understand what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
So you always got to be ahead. When people are thinking about it, you're already out in front of them.
Yeah.
Right.
I do think the way that I brand myself though is going to be incredibly important. And thank you for that suggestion, because I might very well just change the
No, man, and you can always get in contact with me anytime.
yeah, much appreciated.
Yeah. That's all about, just pay it forward because somebody else can come up younger than you too that can experience the same problems.
Absolutely.
Right?
And since particularly with these issues that I've been experiencing, there are other people who have had an interest in logistics and supply chain management that we've almost started to form a little bit of a co-op, if you will, where we just exchange ideas and talk about experiences and see how we can best get through them. So these kinds of suggestions are not only important for me, but helping them as well if they choose to.
But this is the way going forward, And the other thing too, I don't know how old you are, but this is the age of the millennials, where millennials don't take no forces from nobody because they're not afraid of anything. If a millennial is working with you, they don't like the way you're working, they're gone. They ain't coming back tomorrow. You understand what I'm saying? Because as far as they're concerned, once they learn what they have to learn, they're gone. They don't need to come back around you again. They were going to set up.
Agreed. Or they just set up and pursue a market elsewhere, then you end up
correct
with a subpar or substandard. Because the amount of people that have found themselves either having to ask a question of me afterward or get somebody to get in touch with me, or I would just see the name of the company and be like, oh, well, this is somebody who I've reached out with before, and they went through a third party who ended up coming to me anyway. You realize that there really aren't that many options out there, and young people are just deciding, okay, I'm packing up and moving my skill sets elsewhere.
Yeah.
And then you end up with people who you're probably going to have to pay extra now because they're going to enlist the services of the same person who was at your door in the first place.
Right. Exactly right. I am aware that I am over time. Would y'all just give me a few more moments, spend a few more moments with me so I could go through and wrap it for you?
Okay, we have 3 minutes. It's 3 minutes before 12, so off you go, sir.
All right, thank you so much. All right, so what I wanted to do here is to talk about functioning in on-tap markets. What's happening is that we speak a lot about marketing, but a lot of people just don't know how to prospect. And when you're prospecting, you've got to know who is a qualified up for you. And you see that here I define up, which means unlimited potential. You don't know how many opportunities are in that person's purview to do business with you. You don't know how deep their pockets are. You don't know any of those things. So then you have got to go through a system of dialogue where you find out if this person fits within your qualifications of who you want to do business with. I worked in a field called timeshare many years ago in another lifetime. And when we sat down at the end of the day, we would analyze all the people who came in, all the customers who came in. And from that information, we looked at who bought the most, who didn't buy, and then and reasons why they didn't buy. And from there, we would formulate a system of qualifications so that what you're trying to do is to create a system where you make maximum sales within the time frame that you do have. And anybody who did not fit within those parameters, you did not deal with them at all. You excuse them from having to meet with them, right? So you spend your time in the places where you're likely to be most profitable and most productive. You understand? So by analyzing your sales, you looked at things like closing percentage, you look at the volume in terms of the sales volume. And then when we look at the customer dynamics, were they married, single? Did they pay by check, credit card? What were they able to pay? What was their spend? How often do they reload business? Those are things that you look at so that and you have all that information documented. You can put it all in a database so that then you can pull it at a moment's notice and the demographics, psychographics, and all those other metrics that you need to look at in order to determine who is going to be a successful prospect for your business. You understand? So before you meet them, they're a suspect. When you start to go interact with them, they're a prospect. Then you get in there with them, and they want to enter into a commercial relationship with you. Then that's a customer or a client. All right. You also have to keep on looking at who else is in the market, who is out there competing with you. Earlier on, I spoke about the ocean of marketers, and where I spoke about the red ocean and the blue ocean. So I have material there in hyperlink, which I can't go into now because of time. And then I had a case study here where I wanted you to go and look at. When you look at, what potential do you see here? When you look at the ocean of marketers, when you look at all the information that you have, you got to look at how do you see yourselves developing a business out of this opportunity? What would be the social responsibility and regulations to hack the opportunity? And then you look at what cooperative strategy would you like to develop with the mentioned entity. So I had the scale of what Amazon is doing here and how they handle some of the surplus things that are not sold. Are we going to cut off, Marjorie, or can I? Or I'll let you guys watch this, and you could always come back to me. And then you look at money, marketing, operations, legal, and pulling them all together. So then, based upon your current knowledge now that you would have had today, along with what you had from before, how can these areas help you build your business? And then you got to look at researching the aforementioned areas. How can your business benefit from a more planned approach, and why? So these are the things that you have got to look at. You've got to look at your why. So people, I have come to the end today. I'm going to knit back here really quickly. And even though we were here, let me knit down to here. This is my contact information. This is our website. So when I click on that, this is what you'll see. This is our website where you can come on here. You can read our articles. You can get the information that we share, find out a bit more who we are. And then you can always contact us with the contact details right here, either by call, email, or just messages inside of here. So I want to thank you today for the opportunity to share with you. And I hope that something that I said made sense, and that by making sense, you guys will be able to make dollars. And that you'll be able to grow your businesses, set your goals clearly and tangibly, and realize your efforts that you're putting into your businesses on a daily basis. I'm going to turn you right back over now to Marjorie, who will then wrap up. And, thank you for giving me the extra time.
Well, thank you very much, Richard. I think everyone, well, once they could stay, people were willing to stay to hear the information, because the feedback in the chat has been that it's very useful, it's very relevant, it's good information that everyone was getting. And I think for a lot of people, even if some of the things were areas that they perhaps were somewhat aware of, it was useful to consider it, maybe look at an example or look at it from a different angle. So definitely, I think it was a great session for everyone. Someone here is saying it was top notch. So thank you very much for the feedback. We totally appreciate that. I'll tell you that one of the things I've found in organizing these types of sessions and working with people who are experts in the field, they're always passionate. I can't get one of them, not one of them, to be able to end on time because they're is always packed with information. They're always willing to share, very generous with their knowledge and their experience. And so definitely given the feedback here, I think that I may be able to convince Richard to do a follow-up session at some point, and we will make it known. We will share, let you know when it's happening, give you plenty of notice so that you can plan accordingly to be a part of it. Please, for those of you who registered maybe through the event on my page, Breakthrough Performance on LinkedIn, you can feel free to follow the page and just listen out and look out for the next time that we're going to have a session. We will publicize everywhere that we can think of so that you'll have that information. And please share with us any questions, get in touch with any additional clarification that you might need. And as Richard has said, I certainly hope that he has been able to, what he has been sharing has made enough sense that you can go off and make lots of dollars. So thank you all very much for joining us this morning, and please take care and please keep in touch. The recording will be made available. I'll post on LinkedIn where it'll be, but we will likely be sharing it on Facebook and on Richard's YouTube channel. All right, so take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.